Ina alhamdulillah. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry. Ina alhamdulillah. Wasalat. Wasalamallah. Wa rasulullah. Welcome to our series on the signs of the last hour. And some people will ask the question. In fact, I got asked this question just recently by another Daya. They wanted to know, Sister Layla, he said, I know you teach about the last hour. He said, do you believe that it's beneficial? What's the benefit in teaching the people about the signs of the last hour? And I was kind of amazed that he asked me this question. For one thing, there's a lot of benefits in learning about the signs of the last hour. First of all, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that the last hour comes to each and every one of us when that angel of death comes to take our soul. And he also said, never forget, never forget, never forget the destroyer of pleasure, which is death. So the last hour reminds us of death. It reminds us that nothing lasts forever. It reminds us that this world as we know it and everything here is just temporary. Everything here will eventually come to an end. You, me, the planets, everything. And it also lets us know that should you live, a lot of people wish to live forever, immortality. How many of you have heard people say how they wish for immortality? I don't want to ever die. I wish that I could live forever and all of this. Well, immortality comes with a price. It comes with a heavy price tag. The longer you live, the greater the chances are that you will live to see the greatest calamities of all, which is the arrival of the Antichrist, the arrival of the beast, the arrival of all of those last signs, the Gog and the Magog. So understand, that by learning about the signs of the last hour, you know that Allah is Allah and he created things in their due proportion for a reason. Allah tells us that he will never place a burden on any of us that is too great for us to bear. Life is meant to have challenges. Life is meant to be filled with tests. But whatever your challenge is, whatever your test is, you should never feel that it's too much for you or it's something that's too great for you. That's how I know, inshallah, I won't be living when the last hour comes. I wouldn't be able to handle all that drama, dealing with the Antichrist, dealing with the war against Islam, dealing with the Gog and the Magog. I couldn't be able to handle that crap. No, I have to have my technology. I have to have the internet. I have to have my computer. I have to have water to drink and all of that. So for those reasons and more, that's why it's so important to learn about the last hour, the different signs. Plus, as we recognize the different signs as they play out before us, it reminds us of what our purpose is. And it will cause us to check ourselves to make sure that we're living our lives fulfilling the obligations that we were created to fulfill, doing the things that Allah commanded us to do. Okay? So there's a lot of reasons to study this topic. And the last time we met for this class, we went into detail about the Antichrist, the Ad-Dajjal, and we also talked about Jesus. How when the Ad-Dajjal comes, he will come when the Mahdi comes. The Mahdi will come first, then will arrive Ad-Dajjal, the Antichrist. And then when he arrives, then will come Jesus. Today, what I want to do is go over some more authentic hadiths that speak about the terror that the world will experience with this Ad-Dajjal. So let me put the PowerPoint up on the screen so everyone can see, inshallah. Yeah, I told you guys, whatever hadiths that I can find that are authentic, which there are many that are, there's a lot that are not too, about the Antichrist, I told you guys I would present them to you. Well, here are some more descriptions, more hadith about Jesus alayhi salam. And I'm going to do the one about Jesus on Wednesday, because there's more hadiths about Jesus too. A lot of you have questions about, is it true that Jesus will, what does it mean when he will destroy the cross? What does all those hadiths mean? Will he get married and all of that? We're going to talk about that in detail on Wednesday. But today, what I want to do is go over the hadith concerning, more hadith concerning Ad-Dajjal, the Antichrist. And remember, Ad-Dajjal is an Arabic word. It doesn't mean Antichrist. It means the liar, the worst of all liars, the biggest and worst of all liars. In English, he's referred to as the Antichrist. Remember, guys, the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us that every prophet from Adam to him, every prophet warned their people against the Antichrist, of the Ad-Dajjal. So that's why for the other people of the book, he's referred to as Antichrist, because he's going to come, and they were taught too that when he comes, Jesus will come as well. And he will be against Jesus. He will be against what Jesus represents. And that's why the Christians and other peoples of the book refer to him as Antichrist. Well, here's another authentic hadith about him from Al-Mughira ibn Shuba. He says that no one used to ask the prophet more questions about Ad-Dajjal than he did. He said, and one day, the prophet told him, don't worry about him so much, because he used to ask him so many questions. They were so afraid. He said, don't worry so much about him, because he will not be able to harm you. And when the prophet told the companion that, he said, but O prophet of Allah, they are saying that when he comes, the world will be experiencing drought and famine, and he will have a lot of food, and he will come with a lot of water. And the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam looked at the companion and said, don't worry about him. He's too insignificant in the sight of Allah to have all of that. Now, I know the question y'all getting ready to ask, but before you ask, look at this. In another version of this hadith, he said the Antichrist will have a mountain of bread, a mountain of meat, and lots of water. The prophet said, again, he is too insignificant to have all that. So last week when we met, and that's why I'm doing this class, we went over in detail the hadiths about what the Antichrist, what Ad-Dajjal will do. When Ad-Dajjal comes back, Allah will give him miracles. And it will appear that he will make it rain. And when he makes it rain, it will appear that the earth will grow. Okay? So this is a question that one of the brothers on YouTube sent me. Okay? He said, Sister Laila, those hadiths that you spoke about last week, they were Bukhari hadiths. He said, but what about these two hadiths here? And he sent these two hadiths I'm showing you. These are Muslim. These are authentic. So the brother wants to know, is there contradiction between the hadiths like the people say? No. It's a matter of us understanding the meaning. When the prophet said he is too insignificant, when the prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said he's too insignificant to have all that, what does that mean? It means exactly what we talked about last week. Remember, Allah will send the Antichrist and will give him certain miracles of which he will test the believers. Remember, the prophet said he will appear to have two rivers with him. One will be of fire. The other will appear to be of water. Remember, the prophet said, don't choose the one that's water, because in reality, it's fire. So this is what the prophet meant when he says he's insignificant. In other words, the stuff that he has will appear to be real, but they're not. That's the meaning of insignificant. I tell you guys, carry a dictionary. We don't speak this way today. And a lot of these hadiths are translated into English, and the wording is horrific. If you read this in Arabic, it doesn't even mean, it's totally different. But this is what the translators did to the best of their ability. What the prophet was saying is, don't worry about him. Yes, he'll come with what appears to be a lot of food. He'll come with what appears to be a lot of water. He will also appear to make it rain, but in reality, it's not going to be raining. In reality, what you think is food is not really food. That's what's meant by that hadith. Everybody understand that? So the hadiths do not contradict each other at all. In fact, they reinforce each other. In fact, the prophet went on to say that Allah will cause ad-Dajjal to make it appear like it rains. He will look up at the sky and say, rain. And he will look at the earth and say, bring forth your vegetation. And the people who don't believe in Allah, those who do not believe in Allah will think it's raining for real. Those who don't believe in Allah will think that the earth is growing food and stuff for real, when it really is not. The believers will be able to see through him. The believers will not see what the unbelievers see. That's what's meant by this hadith. He's insignificant to have that power. He doesn't really have that power. He's really not carrying that stuff with him. Allah would never give a man that much power, a person that doesn't believe in him that. But to the unbelievers, they will think that his lies are truth. That's why he's called ad-Dajjal. They will think his lies are truthful, but in reality, they won't be. Everybody understand this? So that's what it is. The hadiths are not contradicting, okay? So it's not magic. It will be something real that Allah will test his servants at the end with. Real to the unbelievers, unreal to the believers. Those who doubt will disbelieve. Those who believe will be strengthened when they see this. Because those who believe in Allah, when they see the rain coming down, when they see what appears to be the earth growing, they will know it's Allah. You ain't doing this. They're going to say, yeah, but it's not happening because of you. It's happening because Allah is testing us. They're going to say, Allah is testing us. You're not doing this. Allah is making it appear that you are. But in reality, it's not you, it's Allah. Only the believers will see that. Okay? Also, another thing about him, only the believers will be able to see the word kafir written between his eyes. In one hadith, it says the letters kaf, fa, and ra, which means kafira. Okay? One of his eyes will be blind. Okay? That means like a grape floating, but it'll have no light in it. And it'll be ugly. Some hadith say that the right eye will be blind. Others say it's the left. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is, this is how he will appear. But no one will be able to see kafira on his head except the true believers. Just like the true believers will look up and see the rain come down and they'll say, that's Allah testing us. If they see a flower grow, they'll say, Allah testing us again to see if we're going to give his power to a human being. But the unbeliever look up and say, oh, you are Allah. You are Allah, because only Allah could do this. So that's what's meant by insignificant. The prophet is saying he will appear to do a lot of things, but he's too insignificant to be able to do these things. It will be Allah doing it as a means of testing. Remember, Allah tells us in the Quran that he sends calamities upon man as a way of wheedling out the true believers from the hypocrites. This is how we can tell amongst each other who the true believers are. And on that day, when that Antichrist comes, and he'll be on this earth for 40 days, 40 years. Some hadiths say 40 days, some say 40 months, some say 40 years. So the max is 40 years, okay? However long he's here, we will see whoever is living at that time, and I hope it's none of us, whoever is living at that time, you'll be able to tell who the hypocrites are and who the believers are, okay? Also, one of the brothers asked me, is there any hadith that goes into more detail? And I don't know why it is that people ask these type of questions. Is he going to be white or black? I guess it's normal. You want to know what race, just like you want to know, is the Prophet Muhammad white or black? Was Jesus white or black? Was Moses white or black? Well, is the Antichrist white or black? But the sister that asked me this, let me give you a little bit of history why she asked this. She came from the Nation of Islam, the Elijah Muhammad people. So her thing was, is he the black man that created the right race that the Elijah Muhammad people referred to, that's going to beam the people up? Okay. Well, of course, Elijah Muhammad was a non-believer, okay, and he did not represent Islam. But I did find the hadiths. Okay, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us this is an authentic hadith. Ibn Abbas said, the Prophet said that the Ad-Dajjal is curly hair, and he has white skin. His head will look like the branch of a tree. That's that dreadlock stuff. His left eye will be blind, and the other eye will look like a floating grape. So I tried to find a picture of that type of curly hair. You know how some Caucasian people, when they don't comb their hair, it knots up like dreads, just like, which is why we can't wear dreadlocks. They're ugly, they're dirty, they're nasty. Remember, the jinn walk around with their hair and dreads. Well, the Antichrist will have curly hair, and it'll be knotted up like that. And he will be of white skin, not black skin. Okay. And a person may ask if Dajjal is going to cause such evil, and if he's going to claim to be Allah, and the people are going to believe it, even though he's not. And since all the prophets warned against him, why is it that none of us know his real name? Why is it that Allah doesn't tell us his name? Because Ad-Dajjal is an Arabic word that means the liar. It means a liar. It's not the name of a person. Why doesn't Allah mention him by name? And the answer is simple. Allah says in the Quran, in the interpretation, the meaning, the day that some of the signs of your Lord do come, when those signs do come to you, it won't do you no good to believe then if you didn't believe before. So, Allah tells us, what's the point in me telling you his name? If you were not a practicing Muslim who believed in Allah before he came, you ain't going to believe when he comes. Do y'all see that? And this is a very powerful verse of the Quran, because basically what Allah is saying is, at this time, most people that call themselves Muslims will really be hypocrites. And you're going to see who those hypocrites are. Because when he come, they ain't going to all of a sudden say, La ilaha illallah, I recant my innovation. I recant my lies against Allah. I'm now a believer. It won't be no conversion then. Allah is clear. Whoever did not believe in me before the Antichrist came, they won't believe in me, and it won't do them no good if they even did after he comes. So this is why most of the people that are living on earth at that time will be following the Antichrist. He will have more people believing in him than those who disbelieve. The ones that disbelieve him will be with the Mahdi. And we went over a hadith about that. What did that one hadith say? The Mahdi will only have 75,000 followers. He will only have 75,000 people supporting him. The rest of the world will be on the side with the Antichrist. Okay? Also, we have another hadith where Abu Hurairah tells us, he says, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there are three things. If they happen, it won't do you no good to believe in Allah then. In other words, it's too late to say La ilaha and you believe in him then. And that is the Antichrist, the beast, and when the sun rises from the west. Those are the three greater signs of the last hour. And we're going to talk about the beast too. Whoever doesn't believe in Allah before the beast comes is not going to, he ain't going to believe after him because it's too late. He's going to strike your nose and he's going to put on your nose that either you a kafir or you're not. And just like when the last hour does come, when that sun rises from the west, you wake up and see the sun coming up in a different direction. If you didn't believe in Allah before that happened, you too late now. You'll be like Pharaoh. These are people who will be like Pharaoh. Remember when Pharaoh, when he saw the Red Sea about to come down on him, he saw that he was getting ready to die. That's when he looked up and raised his hand and said, Moses, God is my God. And Allah said, I'm not accepting that. The only reason you admitting that I'm Allah now is because you know I'm getting ready to take your soul. So that's how to be, anyone who didn't believe before the Antichrist comes, it ain't going to do you no good now. You'll be like Moses getting that water thrown right back in your face. Okay? Subhanallah. That's the meaning of that hadith. And remember, we talked about Jesus, alayhi salam. And by the way, I apologize for these pictures, these last pictures, because I used the program. I was trying to hurry up with the PowerPoint. And I wanted to get nice pictures, but I set it on auto and the program that you guys pay for. May Allah bless you guys for your donations. The program will get the pictures for me. I'll just type what I want. I type Jesus and this came out. I type Antichrist and it comes out. So don't hold me accountable for these pictures. Okay, we talked about how Jesus will descend. He will come down from the sky and he will be the one to kill the Dajjal. And Allah speaks about that in the Quran because this is what the brother wanted. Here's the dalil for that. Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, because of their saying in boastfulness, we killed Jesus, the son of Mary, but they did not kill him, nor did they crucify him. Instead, the resemblance of Jesus was put over another man, and they killed that man. And those who differ about that are full of doubts. This is the Quran. Allah is telling us in the Quran, guys, Allah caused another man to be disguised. That person that they put on that cross, as they say, was not Jesus. It was another man who Allah caused to look like him. So they thought that it was him, but it wasn't. Allah goes on to say they have no certainty of knowledge. They follow nothing but doubt because they did not kill him. Instead, Allah raised him up to himself. And where is Jesus now? His soul is in the heavens. Okay? And there is none of the people of the book who will ever be a believer unless they believe that before they die. And on the day of resurrection, Jesus will be a witness against them. This is taken directly from the Quran, guys. And in this ayah, Allah is letting us know that Jesus is not dead. He never died. Allah took him up to him, but Allah will bring him back. He will come back to this earth, but he will not come back as a prophet. And I'm going to go into detail about Jesus on Wednesday, inshallah, if I'm living. He will not come back as a prophet. He will come back as the leader of the entire world. He will be the leader, the caliphate. Y'all looking to establish a caliphate? There will be no caliphate established until Jesus comes back. Jesus will be the caliphate. Okay, well, Mahdi too, the Mahdi too. Okay, and then Jesus, that's the caliphate. But he will be the caliphate of the entire world. Everybody understand that? And we're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you all that dalil on Wednesday. And again, another reason why Dajjal's name is not mentioned in the Quran is because, as Allah says, why should it be mentioned? He's insignificant. He's claiming to be Allah. Remember, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, pride is Allah's cloak. Arrogance is his garment. Only Allah is worthy of being arrogant. He's the only creation that has the authority to be arrogant. And Allah has arrogance, and Allah has his pride. But his pride and his arrogance is not like our pride. It's not like our arrogance. But they belong to him. He has them. Okay? Anyone that tries to compete with him in arrogance, anyone who tries to compete with him in pride, okay? These people are insignificant because they can't. And that's what why should he mention the Dajjal's name? This man thinks he claims to be him. He ain't worth it. He ain't no God. So he ain't worth me telling y'all his name. Okay? If you believe in me, Allah is saying you will see through it. If you believe in me, you don't need to know his name. You know he's a fool. He's somebody stuck on stupid. A lot of people are stuck on stupid. Something I learned today. A lot of people are just stuck on stupid. Those that are stuck on stupid, guys, we got to learn to walk away. Turn away from those who are stuck on stupid. And if you live to see the Antichrist and you are that stupid to let some fool tell you that he making it rain, you deserve whatever you get. Bottom line. That's what Allah is saying here. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of meaning about Pharaoh. Because remember, Pharaoh did the same thing. Pharaoh was stuck on stupid too. Pharaoh claimed to be Allah too. Okay, listen to what Allah said that Pharaoh did in the interpretation of meaning. He said, I am your Lord. I am the Most High. I know not that you have a God other than me. Pharaoh was stuck on stupid. And you should have learned from his story what happens to those who are stuck on stupid. They're insignificant. They end up meeting a terrible end. So his name ain't important. Okay? And one thing about Pharaoh, Pharaoh was a thing of the past. Allah tells us Pharaoh's name because he was of the past. He lived and he died. The book has been sealed on him. His story already happened. It played out. So Allah shared his story with us. Dajjal has not come yet. His story has not yet played out. Allah knows how this man's story will end. But Allah wants to save it for us to see. He wants us to live it, to see it, to experience how it plays out. So that's why Allah is not giving us his name. Yes, Pharaoh did call himself Allah too. He played out. Allah is not going to give us Dajjal's name. because he wants us to learn when it happens and see what Moses and them saw when it played out for them. Everybody understand that? Allah has hikmah, wisdom. He has wisdom unlike ours. We can never be equal to him in wisdom. Everything Allah does is for a reason. Everything that happens in life is for a reason. There's always a lesson to be learned. There's a lesson to be learned in your life, lessons to be learned in my life, lessons that will be learned when Dajjal comes. Okay? Also, guys, Allah does tell us where he will come from. Not only does Allah let us know, because he told the prophet more details about the Antichrist than anyone else. Not only did he tell the prophet how he will look, that he will have curly little dreadlocks, because that's the style anyway. Everybody's wearing dreadlocks. Y'all notice that? Is that a coincidence? Aren't we getting closer to that time? Because white men, Indians, Africans, everybody's wearing dreadlocks nowadays. It's becoming fashion forward. So he's going to be a curly head dread with white skin. And not only that, you want to know why he's a white man? He's a true Caucasian. Look where he's coming from, okay? The prophet told us that too. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that he will come from Khorasan. And I put here on the map this country where this part of the world is. It's that same part where Uzbekistan. You see this? All the drama. Remember, the prophet said all the fitna will come from this part of the world. Iraq, Syria, Khorasan, all of this. That part, there's Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Iran, all of this. This part of the world is all the fitna. All the fitna. And it's not India. Because I understand that the Indians have now turned it into an Indian thing, where they think the Mahdi is going to be Indian, the Antichrist is Indian. Pakistan is over here. India's over there. That's not Khorasan. Okay? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that the Antichrist, his powers that Allah will give him, will only increase the believer's belief in Allah. Okay? And in another hadith, the Prophet said, Ad-Dajjal, he will emerge from a land in the east called Khorasan. The Prophet Muhammad told us where he's going to come from. Khorasan, Brother Ahmad, is not India. Okay? The Prophet said he will come from Khorasan, and his followers will be people with faces like hammers. Okay, look at this part of the world. Uzbekistan. Okay, that part of the world, they do have those type of Turkish looking faces. So that is not India. India is way over here. This is Khorasan. Okay? Uzbekistan. Turkmenistan. There's Turkey. Okay, so they will look like those people, have those faces like hammers, like those people have over there. Indians do not have faces like hammers. Okay, so it's not from India, it's not from Pakistan, none of that. Okay, the Prophet was clear. And by the way, these hadiths are Bukhari and Muslim. These hadiths are Bukhari and Muslim. They're authentic. Okay. We have the hadith of Asma bint Yazid. Y'all know who she is? Can anybody tell me who Asma bint Yazid is? Asma bint Yazid el-Ansariya. You guys should never forget that name, because that name brought the greatest fitna on my website just recently. Who was Asma bint Yazid? Can anyone tell me? Can y'all tell me who she was?
The woman with the gold?
Yes, she was the woman that was rich. She was the daughter of Yazid. Like I was telling y'all, this hadith, she was a rich woman. And she was the woman that the prophet saw with the gold on, and he told her, I heard you guys don't pay zakat. And that's when she took off the bracelet she had, which, by the way, was worth 5,000 dirhams. There's another hadith that says that bracelet that she took off was worth 5,000 dirhams. That's a lot of money. And she said, here, take this. And her aunt was with her and took off her bracelets. There's no zakat on jewelry, guys. The reason why Asma bint Yazid al-Ansariya and her aunt took off their bracelets, as the hadith says, and the hadith is in Sahih. Where's the hadith at, guys? Y'all should never remember where that hadith is found. Where is this hadith found? What's the source? What's the source? Y'all should never forget the source because I kept saying it. What's the source?
Bakr.
This is Bukhari. Bukhari, but this is what happens when we don't use hadith anymore. Instead, we're using fatwas off Islam Q&A. Asma bint Yazid and her aunt took off the gold bracelets they had on, which alone, those bracelets that they gave, in charity were worth 5,000 dirhams. And that was a lot of money back then, I heard. Well, this hadith is from her. She was one of the female companions. Don't ever forget her name. Okay? And not only that, they went home and gave more in charity. There's no zakat on jewelry. You women do not have to pay zakat on the jewelry that you wear every day. Okay? Well, she tells us that the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said during the 3 years, right before Ad-Dajjal comes, there will be 1 year in which the sky will withhold 1/3 of its rain, and the earth will withhold 1/3 of its fruits. Then in the 2nd year, the sky will withhold 2/3 of its rain, and the earth will withhold 2/3 of its fruit. And then in the 3rd year, the sky will withhold all of its rain, and the earth all of its fruit, and all the animals will die. This will be the greatest trial for man. So this will happen 3 years before the Ad-Dajjal comes. This is when the war against Islam will be happening. The war against Islam will be declared 3 years before Ad-Dajjal. Okay? So if you live to see the war against Islam, World War III, that's what it'll be. World War III. Anyone living to see World War III, oh, you better be scared. Because you in some terrible times. Okay? She goes on to say that in these 3 years, there will be no rain. There will be no food. And so that's why when Ad-Dajjal comes, he will go to a Bedouin and say to him, what would you think if I brought your camels that died back to life for you? Will you agree that I'm your God then? And that Bedouin will say, yeah, I'll believe you because everybody is suffering. No food, no water, no nothing. So the jinn, remember, we got jinn that can take on the appearance of animals. We cannot see the jinn, okay? But the Ad-Dajjal will command the jinn, to take on the appearance of a bunch of camels with big udders, and they will do so. So this is an example of the insignificance I talked about. He will appear to be performing miracles, but these are not miracles. When the people see all these camels coming forward, because all the camels died, there's no camels in the desert no more. This is war. Atomic bombs have blown up everything. Animals died out. People starving. When they see these camels come out of nowhere, big fat ones, and in reality, these are not camels. Those are jinn. the jinn that have taken on the appearance of camels, because the jinn will be helping Ad-Dajjal. They will be helping him. Okay. So when they see these jinns come in the form of camels, this is when the people will start believing that he is God. And then Ad-Dajjal will go to another man whose father and brother died because they were killed in the war. And he will ask them, I know your father and your brother died fighting in the war. What would you think if I brought them back to life? Will you agree then that I am Allah? Of course, the man is going to say yes. So again, some of the jinn, two of the jinn will take on the appearance of his father and brother. And that will make the people think too, oh my God, he is Allah. He brought his dead father and brother back, knowing that these are jinns. And so when the prophet told the companions this, Asma said he stepped away for a minute and then he came back and he said, what's wrong, Asma? Why are the people whispering and so nervous? She said, oh prophet of Allah, you have frightened us. The things you told us about Ad-Dajjal scared us. And he said, don't be afraid, Asma. He said, Ad-Dajjal will appear. But if he comes now while I'm living, I will deal with him. And if he comes after I die, then Allah will protect the true believers on my behalf. Okay? And then Asma said to him, O prophet of Allah, we do not bake our dough. In other words, we don't cook until we're hungry. So how would it be at that time when there is nothing to cook? There's nothing to eat. She said, how would the believers eat? He said, the glorification of Allah and the praises of Allah will suffice the believers. In other words, those of us who are living at that time, for those of us who truly believe in Allah, Allah will find a way. I got a lecture I did on, as long as you are living, Allah will cause you to survive. If you believe in Allah, the fact that you believe in him, you fulfill your prayers, you fulfill your obligations, Allah will make a way. So he told Asma, don't worry, it'll be bad times then, but the believer, Allah will always find a way out for the believer. Allah will cause miracles to occur for the believer, but that's only for the believer. And also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the Muslims will fight the Jews and kill them. Because guess what? Not only will the Ad-Dajjal have the jinn supporting him by taking on the appearance of animals. They're going to take on the appearance of cows and chickens and stuff too. That's the trickery. He's going to make the people think that he done brought the earth back, when these are jinn doing that. And the other supporters that Ad-Dajjal will have will be Israel, the Israelites. The prophet said the Muslims will fight the Jews and kill them, to the point where a Jew will be hiding behind a rock or a tree. And that rock or tree will say, oh Muslim, there's an Israelite here. Okay? Because that's what's going to happen. When Ad-Dajjal comes, the Mahdi will have been here. Okay? The Mahdi will have been here. He will have joined forces. The United Nations will have joined forces with him. Those 80 countries. Where's the Hadith? That Hadith we went over. Those 80 countries of 80 different flags. That's the United Nations. Common sense. They will end up supporting the Mahdi. And they will together fight against Israel, the Israelites, okay? And that's that hadith. So those are the other authentic hadiths that speak, and those were all from Sahih Muslim. All the hadiths I went over tonight were from Sahih Muslim, so they are all authentic. Just like the other days, all of them are from Bukhari, okay? So this is more that Allah has told us about the Antichrist. As the Prophet Muhammad said, no other prophet was given all the details like he was. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't withhold any knowledge from us. Okay. The next time we meet for this class, which will be Wednesday, we're going to go over the other hadiths that answer your question about Jesus. Wednesday's lecture on the signs will focus around nothing but what will happen when Jesus is here. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Are there any questions? In alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salamallah, wa rasulullah. Welcome to another session of our series entitled The Signs of the Last Hour. The Signs of the Last Hour. And this is the series, whereas we are going over the different signs that our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us of as to when the last hour will emerge. And as you guys can see, we're getting closer and closer to the last hour. Hold on, let me fix this. We're getting closer and closer to the last hour because, as you guys can see, many of the signs are already here. We're just waiting on the next of the major signs, which would be the war. And we spent detail speaking about some of these signs. We've been focusing in particular on the Antichrist, different hadiths addressing what will happen when the Antichrist comes. And who can tell us what we've learned so far about the Antichrist? Anyone? What have we learned so far about the Antichrist? Can anyone share with us?
Yes, that he has one eye, and then between his his eyebrows there will be kafir, but only those who believe can see that.
Exactly. And how will he be destroyed? Does anyone know?
Yeah, he'll be destroyed by the Prophet Jesus when he's trying to escape at the airport.
Exactly. So those are some of the things that we learned. By the way, how is the video on YouTube? For anybody that's on YouTube, how's the video? I know I don't have Ifty here, but she usually lets me know when I'm running all these programs how my stream is. Can anyone tell me on YouTube or Facebook? Is it freezing or anything? So it's not freezing?
No, it's not freezing. It looks good.
Okay, because those little kids, I want to make sure those kids, if it starts freezing, let me know, because those little kids are trying. Okay, all right. So, mashallah, these are some of the things that we talked about the Antichrist. And today what I'm going to do is just jump right into Jesus, because as we said, Jesus will be the one to destroy the Antichrist. A lot of people thought it was the Mahdi that would do so. No, the Mahdi would not be the one to destroy the Antichrist. It would be Jesus. And there's a lot of questions that many of you had about the coming back of Jesus. And just to reinforce with everyone, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said every prophet, warned against ad-Dajjal, the Antichrist, and even the Christians and the Jews, were told that he will be coming back. And everyone, even the Christians, await his coming back. But what the Christians failed to realize is when Jesus comes back, he's not coming back as a prophet of Allah. Because remember, there will be no prophets after the prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But instead, he'll be coming back as a leader, and not just a leader of the Muslims, but a leader of the entire world. So let me put the PowerPoint up on the screen that addresses this, so everybody can see these hadiths. All right. Okay, and this will be session 10, which speaks about Jesus. Okay, pay attention to what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. He said the Antichrist, ad-Dajjal will appear in my nation, and he will remain for 40, either 40 days, 40 months, or 40 years. And then Allah will send Jesus, the son of Mary, who looks like Urwa ibn Masud. He will chase the ad-Dajjal, and he will kill him. And then the people will live for 7 years, during which there will be no enmity, no hatred between anyone. So after all this fitna of the war against Islam and the whole world suffering with this war, when Jesus comes back, Allah will give us 7 years of peace. The peace will be so tremendous where everyone will be brothers like they should be. And then Allah will send a cold wind from the direction of Syria. Remember, everything comes from Syria. All the fitna will come from Syria. Allah will send a virus from the direction of Syria. And that virus will take the soul of everyone who has the least bit of faith or good in his heart. So this will be like the coronavirus, except this will kill everybody who's good. And it will only leave the bad people on earth. The prophet said only the most wicked and evil of the people will be left on earth. And they will be as careless as birds. They will have the characteristics of animals. And they will have no concern for what is right or wrong. And Shaitan will come to these people in the form of a man. And will say, don't you respond? They will say, what do you want us to do? And he will order them to worship idols. And despite that, they will have sustenance in abundance and lead comfortable lives. So here it summarizes what's going to happen when Isa comes and afterwards. That's a summary. Isa will be the one to defeat the Antichrist, and we will have 7 years of happiness here. But then Allah will cause all the believers on earth to die. And the only people left living, even though they will claim to be Muslim, are nothing but kafirs. And the people will go back to worshiping idols. They'll go back to killing. They'll go back to raping, maiming, and all of that. The worst. Copulating in the streets like dogs. Women walking around like naked. All of that will happen. And then the prophet goes on to say, when this happens, the trumpet will be blown and everyone will look up to hear it. And the first one that will hear it will be a man who is repairing a trough for his camels. He and everyone else will then fall down, and Allah will send down rain, and the bodies of the people, the dead, will grow out of the earth. And then the trumpet will be blown again, and the people will get up and look around. And it will be said to them, O people, go to your Lord so you can be judged. And it will be said, bring out the people of hell. And it will be asked, how many are there? And the answer will be 999 out of every 1,000. And on that day, a child will grow old and the shin will be laid bare. So we'll be, this is when the last hour comes. We'll be raised up bare, naked, uncircumcised. Children will become old, okay? Because it's about being judged now, okay? So this is, a summary of how that's going to go. All right? The Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then spoke about Jesus to the companions. He said, the Son of Mary, he will come down. As we talked about, he will come down holding on to the wings of an angel, of two angels. He will come down the minaret of the mosque in Syria. Okay? He will destroy the Antichrist. And he will come down not as a prophet, but he will come down as a leader. He will destroy the cross and kill the pigs. Now, a lot of people ask, what does it mean? What does it mean when the prophets say that he will destroy the cross? It means exactly that. There will be no more Christianity. Because at this point, remember, the prophet said the majority, the Christians will remain in the majority because of those 6 characteristics they have that we don't have. But when Jesus comes back, all the Christians will convert to Islam. And Islam will become the religion of the entire world. So all the crosses will be torn down because people will not be worshiping crosses anymore. They will understand that Jesus is not the Son of God, that Jesus was a prophet now sent back as a leader. So that's what destroy the cross means. He will establish Islam as the religion of the world. Okay? And then the prophet went on to say, peace will prevail. The people will convert to Islam and the people will live in peace. And even the harmful animals will be made harmless. And the sky will cause it to rain again. And all the earth will be filled with plants like it used to be before that war. And the children will be happy. A child will be able to play with the fox, and the fox will not harm it. A wolf will graze with the sheep, and a lion will run with the cattle without harming them. And there'll be 7 years of this. 7 years. And when the prophet said this, Abu Huraira asked, he said, O prophet of Allah, surely the Son of Mary will come down among you just as a ruler. And he said, yes, he will. He will be a ruler. He will break the cross, kill the pigs, and abolish the jizya tax. For those of you who don't know, the jizya tax, this is a tax that any non-Muslim has to pay to live in a Muslim country, like Saudi Arabia. If you're not a Muslim, they charge you a tax to live there. And you're under the protection of the Muslims too. No one can harm you. No one can bother you because you're under their protection. But there won't be a need for this tax when Jesus comes because everybody's going to convert to Islam. So since everyone's converting to Islam, he will abolish this tax. There won't be a need for it. Everybody understand that? And the people will be so rich in money that people won't even care about money. Also, he said, a single prostration in the prayer will be better than the world and everything that's in it. Okay, so this is what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us about Jesus coming back. Okay, he'll come back as a leader of the world. He'll destroy the cross because he'll establish Islam. He'll kill the pigs because it was haram, not only for us to eat pork, but this was against all the religions. Every book of Allah forbade the people from eating swine. But the Jews and Christians changed the books. Okay? In another hadith, The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, we prophets are like brothers. We have different mothers, but our religion is one. And I am the closest of all the prophets to Jesus, because there is no other prophet between him and myself. He will come back again, and when you see him, you will recognize him. He is of medium height, and he is reddish white in color, and he will be wearing 2 garments, and his hair will look like it's wet, and he will destroy the cross. He will kill the pigs. He will abolish the jizya tax and call the people to Islam. So there's more of that same hadith. And as you can see, our prophet gave us a description as to how Jesus looks. He's not black in color, nor is he a white. He's reddish white. Okay, that's how he looks. Okay, more on this. The prophet said, during Jesus's time here on earth, Allah will end every religion, and he will end every sect other than Islam. And Allah will destroy the Antichrist. And then peace and security will prevail on earth, so much that the lions will be with the sheep, the tigers with the cattle, the wolves with the sheep, and children will be able to play with a snake without any harm coming to them. And Jesus will remain on this earth for 40 years, and then he will die, and the Muslims will perform his funeral. So there you see. And as you guys can see, there is no mention of him getting married. There's no mention of him having any children. A lot of you ask me that. Is it true? Because that's what the Christians believe, that when Jesus comes back, he's going to get married and have kids. Well, Allah knows best. I don't know. None of these hadiths mention anything about him getting married or having children. So since Allah doesn't mention that, we just leave it alone. But Allah knows best what he'll do. Okay? And he will rule for 40 years. And how did the Prophet Muhammad know how Jesus looked? Well, he met him in person. He says, on the night of my night journey, I met Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. And we talked about the last hour. The matter was first referred to Abraham and then to Moses. And both of them said they had no knowledge of it. Then it was referred to Jesus, who said, no one knows when the last hour will come but Allah. And what my Lord told me was that the Antichrist will appear. And when he sees me, he will begin to melt like lead. And Allah will destroy him when he sees me. So this was Jesus' response when the prophet asked him about it. And then the prophet went on to say, the Muslims will fight against the unbelievers until the trees will say, hey, Muslim, there's an unbeliever hiding behind me. This is the war we talked about, when the United Nations will join forces with the Mahdi and they will fight against Israel. Okay? And then after all of that, the Gog and the Magog will come. They will eat and drink up everything they find. Okay? The people will complain to Jesus, and Jesus will make dua asking Allah to destroy them. And Allah will cause worms to fall on their necks and bite them to kill them. Okay? So, these are all the authentic hadiths about Jesus, alayhi salam, and his return back to earth. And again, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said he got to meet with Jesus on the night of his night journey to Jerusalem. When he went to Jerusalem, he met Moses, who was slim with long wavy hair. And then he met Jesus, who was of medium height with a red complexion, as if he had just come out of a sauna. And also, the prophet tells us he got to see Jesus at this time too. When he was asleep, he saw himself in a dream making tawaf around the Kaaba. And he saw a brown-skinned man with straight hair being supported by two men with water dripping from his head. And he asked, who are those men? And he was told, the son of Mary. And he turned around and saw a fat, reddish colored man with curly hair who was blind in his right eye. And his eye looked like a grape. So he asked the angels, who is that? And they said, that's Dajjal. That's the Antichrist. So here we can see the prophet was given the revelation about the Antichrist in dreams when he was asleep. Okay. And of course, he came and shared all that information with us. So this is all that the authentic hadiths have to say about Jesus. I did search and searched. I never read a hadith that says he'll get married, and I can't find there. So evidently it doesn't exist. There's this conception that he will. But do we know? Did the Prophet Muhammad mention it? No. So Allah knows best. All right, I'm going to stop right here for today. If you guys have any Okay, subhanAllah, everybody should be able to hear me. Wa alaikum salam, Sister Samira. How are you, Samira? Alhamdulillah. I hope you had a good Eid. Alhamdulillah, Samira. Okay, Ina alhamdulillah, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. This is our class on the signs of the last hour. And we've covered so many of the signs of the last hour, and I've broken down and detailed them in accordance to what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that they were, with the understanding that the companions had. And the last time we met for this class, which was last Wednesday, we spoke about Jesus, how that's one of the greater signs of the last hour, the return of Jesus. And not only did our prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam speak about the return of Jesus, but all the other prophets, the Christians, they're aware of that too. The Jews are aware of that too. Whether they deny it or not, they still know that he will return. Okay? And who can tell us a little bit about the return of Jesus? When he returns, is he going to come back and complete the message that he began? Wa alaikum salam, Sister Aisha. It's good to see you here. MashaAllah, Sister Aisha. It's very good to see you. Yeah, so tell me, guys, when Jesus comes back, will he be coming back to complete his mission that the people prevented him from completing? Remember, Jesus was unable to complete his mission. Allah took him up to him. Allah took him up because the people wanted to kill him. And they think they killed him, but they did not. And let's talk about that for a minute before we get off into the other stuff. Let's talk about this, about Jesus, alayhi salam. What happened to Jesus? If they didn't kill him, what happened? Can anybody tell us what happened to Jesus, alayhi salam? Did he didn't die on the cross? If he didn't die on the cross, what happened?
Allah raised his soul up.
That don't make sense. Now, I want to know what happened. What happened to Jesus? Y'all got to talk. Give me some information. I don't know what raise no soul up mean. What that mean? What happened to Jesus?
They put somebody else on the cross in his place, and they thought it was him. And Allah raised him up to him.
Okay.
They didn't kill Jesus. They killed some other man. They thought it was Jesus.
Oh, okay. So see how she explaining that? Y'all got to learn how to talk. So what happened? Allah made another man appear to be Jesus?
Yeah.
And so they took this man and arrested him and put him on the cross, had him do whatever they claimed that they did, drag him through. Y'all seen the Passion of the Christ, drag him through whatever they dragged him through the marketplace. I don't know what that is. But that wasn't Jesus, huh? Okay. So what did Allah do? He just took his soul up to him, his body up to him. What does that mean? Where is he at?
Allah took him up to the heavens. He's up in the heavens because when the Prophet went in the Isra Miraj, he saw him in one of the heavens.
Exactly.
So he's up there.
Exactly. Now y'all getting better. That's how we answer questions. That's what I'm training y'all to do, to learn how to talk. Because the people of innovation, the people that don't know the religion, they can speak very good, y'all. They talk on and on. You can't shut them up. And then when you listen to a person like y'all say, B. What? B. What the heck are you talking? That's how y'all sound. Y'all say one word. Sit. Just ignorance. We got to get over that ignorance. We got to learn how to communicate better. We have to learn how to put that, to open up our mouth and speak well to people, to learn how to explain things. You don't have to have the perfect English. I speak grassroots English. I speak grassroots American English. Okay. If I wanted to get all proper and prissy, I could. Okay. But, y'all I know how to articulate. I can go into the details. I don't leave out who, what, where, when, why. You learn that. You always, when you're talking, who, what, where, when, why. The W's have to be answered. So that's what happened to Jesus. He didn't die on no cross. He wasn't dragged through no marketplace with the dogs and all of that, with criminals and all of that, like these unbelievers believe. Allah wouldn't subject one of his prophets to that. They claim that they believe in Allah. You claim that you believe in Allah. You claim to have love for Jesus. You even go so far and to call him the son of Allah. You think Allah would have his son? What man, if it was a son, would do that to his child, allow his child to be treated and beaten? And come on, get a life, people. That's all Hollywood. Hollywood sing swingers. Hollywood, let's get real. Allah caused another man to take on the appearance of Jesus. Yes, it's true. I'm answering this question here from, can I share the screen? From Susanna. Susanna wants to know, and by the way, for those of you who are on, you can always, for those of you on Facebook, join the Sunnah Followers Facebook page. If you join the Sunnah Followers Facebook group, my stream is live there, and you can type, and I can see you. We can see what you type. It won't show your name, but it shows your Facebook user. Okay, because I don't know how to set it up. I still ain't had the time to do it yet. I'll figure it out. Y'all got to give me a week or two to figure it out. Okay, somebody need to remind me too. Okay. But just go to this Facebook, and also any other platform, Twitch, Trova, join Twitch, Trova, LinkedIn. I can see all the typing on those platforms. Twitter, I can see their typing too. Okay, it's just that for some reason I can't see Rumble and I can't see Odyssey. Odyssey and Rumble. Join my Facebook page. Find us by typing Sunnah Followers, and we pop right up. That's us. Sunnah Followers group, and you'll see my name too. Okay. This is the deal of what one of the Sister Savannah asked me, so what happened? What does Islam teach us? Well, that's what Islam teaches us. And yes, Susanna asked me, is it true? Some people say that Judas, well, Allah knows best. I've heard that too. I've heard some people say that Allah caused Judas, who was the one that supposedly sold Jesus out. I have heard other people say that Allah caused Judas to take on the appearance of Jesus. And that's why when he said, you, oh Father, you don't know, they don't know what they've done, that was Judas saying, they don't know that it's what they've done. This is Judas, this ain't Jesus. But I don't know. There's no hadith addressing that. There's nothing in the verse of the Quran addressing that. So what Islam teaches us, guys, if it cannot be proved by the Quran in clear words, if it cannot be proven by the hadith in clear words, we leave it alone. It's all just people's opinion. And that's why I liked the way Sheikh Atlee answered y'all's question today. Y'all see how y'all asked him the question about does a child that's been suckled inherit? He didn't go look on the fatwa. He didn't go to Islam Q&A to see what Sheikh Albani, Uthaymin bin Baz. No, he went right to the hadith and he read it to you right from Bukhari and Muslim. He read it in Arabic, and he does speak Fusha, and then he read it in English. His translation is good. God, Sheikh Atlee can translate well. That's why I see how he was able to take these books and make them like he speaks the Fusha, and his English is well enough where he can translate well, like Sheikh Morsi does, because a lot of these words, he gives it as close to the meaning in English as he can, like Sheikh Morsi. That's what happens when you can speak Fusha. Okay, and he gave y'all the answer right from the hadith. He read that hadith directly from Sahih Muslim, that even though the child is suckled, they become your family, but they do not. He read that the companion said, Ibn Abbas said they do not inherit. It's clear. It's right there in the authentic hadith. That's why I try to tell y'all, any question about Islam, it has already been answered by the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's no need to go into these fatwas online. There really isn't. But the problem is most Muslims are not educated. And we talked about earlier, we think that somebody's supposed to come and teach us. No, you think that the imam's supposed to teach you. Imam don't teach nothing. He's just a man that leads you in prayer. That's it. You have to get up off your derriere and go out and seek knowledge, just like you sought a man, just like you sought that college degree, just like you sought that job you got, just like you went out and sought what car to buy, just like you go out and seek what food to buy. You got to go out and seek knowledge on your own. That's why Allah only excuses us temporarily, because he let you live long enough to find out the truth. And if you don't, shame on you. And you gon' burn, baby, burn. Disco fever while you in that grave. Now, the day of judgment, Allah may forgive you. But you gonna burn in that grave. Because he gonna say to you, the first thing those angels gonna say is, why didn't you know? Why didn't you go try to learn? Didn't your Allah give you a long life? How long you were Muslim? Who told you that somebody supposed to knock on your door and give you the knowledge of Islam? You burn, baby, burn. It's going to be a lot of people burning. Disco fever is something that nobody should want in that grave. The kids are like, the little kids on Twitch laughing at me. Little Ibrahim. He says, Sister Laila always got jokes. I'm glad. I got to put a little humor in there because I got to be tough as a dyer. But I'm glad to see children, the kids can see through. They know that Laila puts up a big tough shell because I'm on there. They know that Laila just as silly as she can be. Yeah. Disco fever. Yeah, that's the 80s. That was long before your time, baby cakes. Disco fever. John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John. It's just a shame. But anyway, yeah, so subhanAllah, that's what happened. Islam teaches us that Jesus did not die on no cross. He didn't die for nobody's sins. Allah tells you in the Quran that he caused someone. It's right there in the Quran. Allah says that he caused someone. He didn't name the person. He didn't say who the person's name was. But he does say that they know not what they say. That because Allah, we caused someone else to appear to be him. But we brought Jesus up to us. And like Sister Shamila said, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on his night journey, he met Jesus alaihi salam. He met all the prophets. And he also met Jesus' first cousin too, John. They were in the third heaven. So where's Jesus? Right up there in the third heaven. Y'all want to know where he is now? In the third heaven. In the form of a green bird. Okay? Nobody will enter paradise until the day of judgment. Let me stress this, because this is a question that Brother Ibrahim, the little 17-year-old, asked here. Is there anybody in paradise? Okay. No one will enter paradise in body and soul until the day of judgment. And the first person that will enter it in body and soul is the Prophet Muhammad. But right now, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the souls of the believers and the souls of the prophets and the souls of the children who died before the age of puberty, they are in the form of green birds flying around paradise. So right now, they're souls. Yes, they're souls in paradise, but not body and soul. You understand, Ibrahim? Does that make sense? Such a good kid, mashallah. May Allah bless your parents, for raising you upon the deen, where other kids are your age. Because Brother Ibrahim, he said he's 17. I always call him a kid, but to me you are, because I'm old enough to be your grandmother, your great grandmother, to be honest. I'm old enough to be your great grandmother. Okay? But subhanAllah, you know, other kids your age, 17-year-olds, they're out in the streets. I know of many Muslim 17-year-old boys out selling drugs, you know, out trying to live the gangster lifestyle, you know. But mashallah, you come here for every class, and I'm so proud of you. May Allah bless you, Brother Ibrahim, and bless your parents. Give my salams to your parents. Okay? Ameen. All right. So good job on that, but that's his answer. So the last time we met, we talked about Jesus, alayhi salam. Allah took him up, but Allah said he will bring him back. And when he comes back here, is he coming back to finish his mission? Is he coming back here to set them straight about who died on that cross? Who can answer? What's he going to do when he come back here?
He's coming back as a leader to fight the Dajjal.
Okay, we got one person that said he's coming back as a leader to fight the Dajjal. Is that it? Anybody else? No, nope, that ain't the answer. Listen to the question. Wait a minute, hold on. I want y'all to listen to the question and answer me like the innovators would. I mean, when I say like them, I mean intelligently, completely, but their answers are wrong. Okay, but they sound good because they complete. That's why y'all duped by him. Oh, she talking good. I can learn from her. She better than Layla. And what she teaching you is that you can talk to the dead. She teaching you that it's okay to make dua to dead people. All right, wake up so you won't be duped. So listen to the question. The question is, what will Jesus come back for? What will he come back? What is the purpose of Allah bringing him back? Is the purpose to fight the Antichrist? That's what her answer was. What is the purpose? Sister Muslima, let me give her answer first before y'all take it on you, Zoom. Sister Muslima said he's coming back to teach Islam the way the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did. Okay, Shamsa said he's coming back to fight the Antichrist, the Dajjal. Next person, who wasn't on the mic, go ahead.
He's gonna come back also to abolish the jizya, to break the cross and kill the swine, kill the pig.
Okay, Sharmila said the purpose of his coming back is just to abolish the jizya tax, kill the pig. Okay, go ahead, Ifti. Let's hear your answer. Nobody's right. What is he coming back here for?
He's just coming back to complete his life, and he is going to follow the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is not going to come to complete anything he started. He is going to follow what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam came and did, which he already completed the religion.
Okay, y'all hear her answer. Do y'all hear how Ifti's answer is totally different? And guess what? Her answer is right. What was wrong with everybody else's answer? What makes everybody else's answer not the correct? The rest of you just said things he would do. I didn't ask what he gonna do. I asked, what is he coming back for? What is the whole purpose of Jesus coming back? Good job. Pamela got it right too. The whole purpose of Jesus coming back is to become the leader of the world. To lead the world. Now you got it, Muslima. To teach Islam, to rule the world. That's the purpose. All this other stuff is secondary. But Allah is bringing him back so he can establish Islam as the universal religion of the entire world. And he will also become the caliph, the ruler of the entire world, adhering to the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, emphasizing the things that the Prophet Muhammad came with. That's how you answer that question. Good job, Ifti. Good job, Pamela. Good job, Musima. You thought about it and got it right, Musima. Yeah, this is what I want y'all to do as my students. Pay attention to the wording and give the answer. I didn't ask what things he would do. So now let's go to the next question. So as the ruler of the world, because all the other answers y'all gave is after the fact. Once he establishes himself as the ruler of the entire earth, and once he establishes Islam to be the lifestyle of the entire planet, what else will he do? Now let's go to other answers. What else will he do after that's completed? Different people besides the people that's already answered. I got people in that Zoom room, hit on that mic. And and the people on YouTube and stuff, you can type your answers too. Come on, what are other things he will do? You had all the game before. What's up now? See, it's harder to be a teacher. Anybody can get on the internet and lecture about Islam. How many of y'all can teach Islam like I'm doing? You got to pull it out of people. You got to push people. You got to make people think. Put them back on track. Let me look at my Zoom room and see who all is here. Okay, let's get some answers. Look at all these people in here. Why ain't nobody on that microphone? Norto. Sabrina is here. Sabrina knows. Sabrina, what are some of the things that Jesus is going to do when he comes back? Sabrina, start these adults off.
I'm not ready yet. I'm still thinking.
Oh, okay. That's my baby, you know. Sabrine, Miss Sabrine, what's some of the things Jesus is going to do when he comes back? Mina, what are some of the things he's going to do when he comes back? Marard, Melion, Sahara, Elma. Go ahead, anybody. Go ahead, Pamela, you can type. Yeah, y'all type. I'm going to put y'all, share y'all answers up here. Everybody, cat's got your tongue. Shamsa, tell him what's some of the things he's going to do when he comes back. Go ahead, Shamsa. Shamsa, you had the answers before. Come on.
I'm so sorry. I'm in the middle of kids.
Oh, you got the kids? Oh, she done with the kids. Somebody else? Go ahead.
I think I'm ready now.
Okay, go ahead, baby.
He's going to turn the whole world into Islam. That means they'll be kind of like the only religion, and all the Christians will become Muslim. That because they heard that he's not actually Christian, he's Muslim.
Exactly. That's the first thing he's gonna do. What else? What are some of the things that the mother sisters mentioned? They just mentioned them at the wrong time. Sharmila, what else he gonna do, Sharmila?
He gonna because most of the people them worship him, he gonna clarify all of that too, because he can let them know that he's not God, that he's just a messenger of God. He's gonna verify that for them, and he's gonna kill the Dajjal. He's gonna
Okay, that's one answer she gave. He's gonna kill the Antichrist when he comes back. That's the first thing he's gonna do, is kill the Antichrist. What else is he gonna do?
He is gonna kill the pigs and he destroyed the cross.
Exactly. That's my babies. I think that's Shuaib in them. Exactly. He's gonna destroy the cross. And why will he destroy the cross? Can anybody tell me why? What does that mean when we read about how Jesus will destroy the cross? What will that represent? You guys should know the connection. What's the connection between destroying the cross and his arrival? What does that mean?
That's to represent that whatever people said about him wasn't true, that Islam is like the real religion. It was never Christianity.
Yes, and also, good job, Norto. That's another point. And also to signify that there is no more Christianity. There is no more Judaism. There is no more nothing. It's all Islam. It's Islam or the highway. Exactly. And his destroying that cross will symbolize that everything that y'all said was a lie. I never came here with no cross. I didn't die on no cross or none of that garbage. This is all stuff that you fathomed up. Good job, Norto. What else? What are some more things he would do? And kill the pig. Why will he kill the pig, you guys? What's the symbol? What does that symbolize? What's so big about killing that pig? This is a fiqh class question. Now, this is for my students. When you think about the fact that he will kill the pig, what does that represent? What does that symbolize?
The consumption of the pig is unlawful. So that, yeah.
That's one. But I want you think a little deeper. Okay, what does a pig represent? So he's going to kill all the pig. Yes, it was against every religion to eat swine, but they ended up eating. Everybody eats it but us. But it symbolizes something else too. Destroying and all the swine. It represents what? By destroying all swine. Okay, close, Ifti. Think a little deeper. This is a fiqh question. Destroying all swine. Swine represents filth. So what does this represent? What does Islam say about filth? What does filth represent in Islam? Think, guys.
That we cannot consume it?
No, forget about eating it. What principle of Islam centers? Good job, Muslima. Put it in words. Put it in words, Muslima. Put it in words. She got it. You making that's called El Furqan. To answer a question like this is how you can tell if you got El Furqan. Good job. Y'all see her key word, filth, unlawful. Put it in a sentence. Killing that pig represents what?
Purity of religion?
No. She gave y'all the number one clue word, unlawful. What is unlawful?
It represents that it's bad and dirty. It's haram.
Okay, y'all need to understand. Y'all got to be able to think. El Furqan is the ability to think. It's a gift that Allah only gives to a few people. Okay, so you think about it. He's destroying all the pig. A pig represents filth, dirty, bad. So he's coming back to establish Islam and to make everything upon the way of the Prophet Muhammad. And the way of the Prophet Muhammad was he purified everything that came before him. Allah made things haram for the Jews and Christians that were not bad and dirty, but he made them haram as a punishment. So killing the pig means everything lawful is good and clean, and this entire universe will be ruled by that which is good and clean. Anything that's bad and dirty is unlawful. This Quran, Allah put in this Quran that everything he hates, he made haram, and they're bad, they're dirty. So this world is no longer operating off of punishments of man, laws of man, decisions of man. Man made anything, what you think to be good and clean, what you think to be bad and dirty. The world is now going to be ruled by this book of what Allah said is good and clean. Do y'all get it? Good job, Muslima. Good job, Muslima. You were there. You were almost there. That's fiqh. Y'all got to be able to remember to have insight. We talked about that in our Tawheed class. In order to be a believer, guys, a true believer, y'all have to have insight. You have to be able to see beneath the surface of things. You have to be able to look at a case like this where Jesus is destroying the cross and realize that represents, like Norto said, all the lies is over. All the man's lies and deceptions is over. And I'm killing the pig. Now everything that Allah said is lawful, is good and clean. Everything Allah said is haram, is bad and dirty. So it ain't no more of your opinions. It ain't no more of what you think. It ain't no more man-made laws. It ain't no more fatwa. Because remember, we talked about right before Jesus comes, the sunnah is gone. Nobody's living the life of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam anymore, except a handful of people. There's only a handful of Muslims in the world. And they are the only ones trying to teach the hadith. Everybody else is living off of fatwa like we see today. Y'all asked Sheikh Atlee that question. He read it directly from a hadith book. If you had to ask that little boy, he'd have read a fatwa. Seriously. Everybody else goes to Islam Q&A and see what Sheikh Albani and them had to say when they ain't even here to defend themselves. Okay? The sunnah will become abandoned. So he's representing here. We are all living the way that it should have been. And we talked about how many years of peace, how many years of peace once Jesus destroys the Antichrist and establishes himself as a leader of the world, how many years of peace will the entire world live in? How long will we have a peaceful existence?
7 years, how do you say? 7 years of peace?
Exactly. Exactly. 7 years of peace, living by the laws of Islam, following the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. The fatwa seekers are gone. We're now back to the Quran and Sunnah. We're back to praying the way the Prophet said pray, not the way Imam Fatwa Mufti said. We're back to practicing laws the way the companions did, those original companions, not the way Imam Malik did or Ibn Taymiyyah or Sheikh Hamadam a dozen of 2023. Okay, we'll be back to the traditional, what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam calls the traditional Islam. And what is the traditional Islam? It's the what he presented and what his companions, those companions in Medina, what they practiced. We'll live that way for 7 years. That's it, just 7 years. And then it all starts over again. And before we go into what's going to happen after those 7 years, today what I'm going to do is focus on how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to protect ourselves from the Antichrist. Because the Antichrist will come. The only person that will destroy him is Jesus. But Jesus won't come until after the Antichrist serves his time here on earth. But I want you guys to remember, even though the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us how to protect ourselves, just like he taught us what the questions of the grave will be, when you die, if you were a hypocrite, that means if you were a Muslim, but you weren't practicing this religion right, you didn't really believe in Allah, even though you memorized those answers. Amina Fresno, remember this. Even though those people remember those answers, they will not be able to answer the question. Because like the prophet said, the angels will stop your throat because you were a hypocrite. You won't be able to say, when they say, who is your Lord? You'll go, ah. It won't come out because you didn't believe in Allah. You just pretended to be the part. That's how to be in that grave before they throw you in hell. Well, just like that, if any of us happen to live, the prophet said, anyone who lives during that time, unless you are a real believer, and I'm talking practicing, that means wearing hijab, praying, you done sought knowledge of Islam, Fresno. You ain't one of the Muslims that's converted and just dumb. Don't even know who your mahrams are. Unless you are a real practicing believer, because seeking knowledge is what a believer it does. Believers don't sit there and think knowledge is going to fall. That's what the Sufis believe. That's why they're innovators. Okay? The prophet said, unless you are a real practicing believer, even though he's told us how to protect ourselves, you ain't going to remember none of this stuff. Y'all understand that? You ain't going to remember nothing about no surah or the cave. You ain't even going to know what the cave is. You ain't going to remember none of this stuff that I'm teaching today, unless you are a downright real believer. Everybody understand that? This is very important, because a lot of Muslims today take Islam for granted. You know, you're privileged. You think that knowledge is supposed to come to you from the sky. You know, you think that all you got to do is say, La ilaha illallah, and you go into paradise. Nope. Most of you going to be in hell. Sorry. I didn't say it. Allah did. Don't kill me. I'm just a messenger. That's it. Okay. So let's go over what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the believers will do that will protect them. If you ain't no real believer, you won't even remember this stuff. Okay, let's put the PowerPoint up on the screen. Just like you ain't going to remember in that grave. You won't be able to say Allah. You won't be able to say the Prophet Muhammad. You're just going to be sitting there in that grave choking. Here we go. Yeah, it's scary. That's why the prophet said, fear death. I'm telling y'all, life ain't as easy as y'all think. Death ain't as easy as y'all think it is. You better fear that grave. You don't want to burn and do no disco fever in that grave. Okay, so today we're going to go over how to protect yourself from the Antichrist. And this is only for the believers, because like I say, the hypocrites ain't going to remember none of this. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us that one of the best ways to protect yourself from ad-Dajjal is simply by asking Allah to protect you, by seeking refuge with Allah. And this is what Sheikh Atlee was talking about when we make our prayers. I went over that supplication with y'all today. Okay, after you taslim out of your prayers. Okay, before you taslim out of your prayers, after you recite the final tashahhud, the Prophet recommended that we seek refuge with Allah from the tribulations of the Antichrist. In fact, here's the hadith in Arabic. I want y'all to screenshot. I meant to tell y'all in the class that here's the Arabic words. Learn this supplication in Arabic. You're asking, what are you saying? You're saying, oh Allah, we seek refuge with you from the punishment of hell, from the punishment of the grave, from the tribulations of life and death, and from the tribulations of ad-Dajjal. And I tried to put it in phonetics as best I could. Let me see if I did it good. Allahumma. You see this, Savannah? Inna na'udu. This is ayn. So this is na'udu. Bika. Min ad. This is ayn. Min ad-dabi. Ad-dabi. Jahannam. Wa min ayn again. Wa min ad-dabi. Ad-dabil qabr. Ad-dabil qabr. I put this thing here to mean not I. Why men fitnati. This is fitna, tribulations. Fitnati. Fitnatil mahyai. This was hard for me to do, man. Mahyai. Well, mamat. I put 2 A's for elongation. Mamat. Wamin fitnatil. See that? Fitnatil. Masi. That means 2 counts. 2 E's, 2 counts. Masihi. You see that? Dajjal. It's easy. You can learn this supplication in the Arabic. For those of you who are new, the new shahadas here, take a screenshot of this page. I want y'all to learn this supplication in Arabic because the Prophet taught it to us. It's one of the ones that I went over today at 6. And he taught all the ones that I went over today at 6 o'clock are in Arabic. Okay, but this is the one that I really want y'all to learn. This is the one. And that's the English phonetics. But for, so you can say it. I try to write it out. Allahumma inna na'udu. Allahumma inna na'udu bika min adabi jahannam wa min adabil qabr wa min fitnati. You see that? Fitnatil mahyai. Mahyai. Well, mamat. Wa min fitnatil masihi. You see that? Masihi Dajjal. Okay? Learn it. So making this dua after the final tashahhud, not only are you asking Allah to protect you should the Antichrist appear during your lifetime, but look at the rest of that dua too. You're also asking Allah to protect you from the punishment of the hellfire. And you're also asking Allah, Savannah, to protect you from the punishment of the grave. The grave is a scary thing. And you're also asking Allah to protect you from the trials of life. We all go through trials, but you're asking Allah to give you the strength to handle them. And the trials of death, because even at death is not pleasant. So this is a good supplication for everybody to learn, especially my new shahadas. Take a screenshot. There it is in the English fanatics. And it could join my website at 5 o'clock on Mondays through Thursdays. And Brother Malik will help teach you how to say this. But if you say it this way, you should be able to say it because I did a good job writing it in phonetics. Okay. Also, you guys have heard this, memorizing certain verses of the Surah of the Cave. But this is only for the believers. We got Muslims memorizing those verses now. But I hope you are practicing, Muslim. I hope your Aqidah is correct. I hope you know the basics. I hope you know who's lawful for marriage and who ain't. If you don't know the basics, like who you can marry and who you can't, then I'm sorry, this ain't gonna help you because you didn't do your job of learning this deen. Okay? But this is the hadith. Seeking refuge with the law from the Antichrist is mentioned in many hadith. I gave y'all some. And one of this is also to memorize the 10 verses from the Surah of the Cave. Abu Dira, he reported that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever memorizes the first 10 verses, the first 10 verses of the Surah of the Cave will be protected from the Antichrist. This hadith is from Dawood. And yes, there is another hadith too. There's another hadith that says the last 10 verses. Before anybody asks me, there's another hadith that says the last 10 verses too. So the bottom line, either one, learn them both. But it's only going to work if you a believer. If you don't believe in Allah, it ain't going to work for you anyway. You're going to be sitting there fighting against Jesus, not fighting with him. Also, another way to protect yourself from the Antichrist, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, is to simply stay away from him. And there are 2 cities The two cities that the Antichrist will not be allowed to enter is Medina and Mecca. I remember when my brother Isa was living in Medina, I said, why are you living in Medina? Why don't you go move over there where my sister is? Because our sister lives in Abu Dhabi, you know, beautiful, rich country. He said, well, not only do I get to make Hajj and stuff here from here all the time, he said, but also, he said, this is the city that the Antichrist won't be able to enter. And I remember I told my brother Isa back then, this was about 25 years ago. I said, Isa, you know, if you practicing your deen, you don't have to worry about the Antichrist anyway. So go move over there where your sister is. I remember telling him that. You know, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, there are angels standing at the gates of Medina. And also another hadith, Mecca, neither plague nor the Antichrist can enter it, or Mecca either. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the terror caused by the Antichrist will not enter Medina. At that time, it will have 7 gates, and there will be 2 angels guarding every gate. Okay? And here's the one. Also, it has been proven that the Antichrist will not enter Mecca nor Medina because the angels will prevent them. In fact, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said when he camps at the salt marsh of Medina, it will be shaken by 3 earthquakes. And every hypocrite will be kicked out and they will join the Antichrist. This is the hadith that Sister Yasmin asked about. And we're going to talk about those 3 quakes the next week. Okay, so what's going to happen is when the Antichrist does come, when he does appear, Allah will cause 3 earthquakes to hit Mecca and Medina, and all the hypocrites will be kicked out, leaving only the believers. Those hypocrites will end up joining with the Antichrist. The people left in Mecca and Medina will end up making hijrah. They will migrate to Mecca to give their allegiance to the Mahdi. And the Mahdi and them will all migrate they will go to Jerusalem to take, to fight against the Antichrist. Because that's where the Antichrist will raise his attack from, that final attack. From Jerusalem, Israel, okay? Yeah, and on that day, Medina will be clean of the bad people. But also we're going to talk about that because after the Muslims leave Mecca and Medina will become uninhabited. No one will live there anymore. Okay, Mecca and Medina will just be ruled by animals, lions, tigers, and that stuff. Nobody will live there because when Jesus comes, Jesus will not rule from out of Mecca. He will not rule from out of Medina. This is when Masjid al-Aqsa will finally be back in the hands of the Muslims. Jesus will rule from out of Masjid al-Aqsa. Masjid al-Aqsa will replace the mosque in Medina, and it will replace the mosque in Mecca. Those mosques will become uninhabited. And eventually, they'll be destroyed. We'll talk about that as we move on with the greater signs, okay? So, let's review the life and deeds of the Antichrist, Ad-Dajjal. We call him Antichrist in English. He's called the biggest liar in Arabic, Ad-Dajjal. As we talked about, Ad-Dajjal will be a man. He's not an animal. He's a man created by Allah, and he will be a test for the people. And he will lead many people astray. Okay? The only people that will see through him and not be led astray are those handful of believers. And listen to what else the prophet said about Ad-Dajjal. The prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the Ad-Dajjal, his parents, his mother and father will remain childless for 30 years. And then a one-eyed child will be born to them. So whoever his parents will be, They will be childless. They'll be 30 years old having them. So they'll be childless for 30 years. And they will give birth to a one-eyed child. And that child will be very bad. He will disrespect his parents. He'll grow up causing a lot of problems. And when he sleeps, his eyes will be closed, but his mind will still be active, plotting and planning to do bad things. The prophet described his parents. He said his father will be a tall, bulky man who will have a long nose like a beak, and his mother will be a big woman with big breasts. Okay? And when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave this description of the Antichrist's parents, the companions, they got scared. And then they heard that a child was born to some of the Jews in Medina. So Az-Zubair ibn al-Awam and Abu Bakr, they went to see the parents of this kid. And they found that that this kid's parents matched the same description. The father was tall and bulky and had a long nose. The mother was big with a big breast. And they saw a little boy lying in the sun covered with a blanket, talking to himself. And so they asked his parents about him, and they said, well, we tried to have kids for 30 years. And then finally we got pregnant, and this little one-eyed boy was born to us. He is so bad. He causes us a lot of problems. So the companions went out and looked at the boy, and he knew that they were coming. He said, what do you want? He said, I sleep, but my mind is active. And that little boy, we did this story. This was Ibn Sayyad. And we talked about that, how during the lifetime of the prophet, many of the companions thought that Ibn Sayyad was the Antichrist, but he wasn't. We already proven that, because Ibn Sayyad was just a bad boy. He was just one of them bad little kids who was known as a minor, lesser liar. He grew up and converted to Islam. Remember, he was making Hajj with Sa'id al-Khudri. We went over the hadith in another class, whereas when Sa'id al-Khudri was making Hajj, and Ibn Sayyad said, remember how when I was a kid, everybody thought that I was the Antichrist. But remember, the prophet said that the Antichrist will never marry and never have children. He said, I got 4 wives and I got a bunch of kids. And remember, the prophet said that the Antichrist will not be able to enter Mecca or Medina. He said, I'm entering Mecca right now. I'm in Mecca with you right now doing Hajj. He said, so I'm not the Antichrist. That hadith is authentic. It's in Sahih Bukhari. So, but this whole thing was to show how when the prophet told about the Antichrist, he talked about his parents. His parents, will remain childless and then give birth to this bad boy who has one eye. Okay? Also, the Antichrist, as we talked about, will appear at the end of time after the Muslims have conquered Constantinople, the Christian city of Constantinople. We talked about that. He will first appear in Isfahan, in an area known as the Jewish quarters. And he will have 70,000 Jews following him, armed to support him. And not only will he have 70,000 Jews, but he will also have 70,000 Tatars. And who are the Tatars? These are the people from Khorasan. He will have a lot of people from Khorasan who will also be following him. And at first he will appear to be a king. Then he will claim to be a prophet. And then finally he will say, I am Allah himself. And only the most ignorant of people will follow him. The few believers who are practicing and true to Islam, who have sought knowledge. I got to say that because I'm really dumbfounded to see that you've been Muslim 50 years and you don't know who a mahram is. You got to seek knowledge of this deen. You don't know how to pray. You don't know the Fatiha. You've been Muslim 50 years. I'm sorry, you ain't one of these people. You know, you're one of these ignorant people. You got to seek knowledge of this religion, guys. The righteous and those who are guided by Allah will be able to see through the Antichrist. And he will conquer the world, country by country, region by region, town by town. The only two places on earth that he will not be able to cause havoc is Mecca and Medina. And how long will he be on earth? His length of stay on earth will be 40 days. But in that time, one day will be like a year. Another day will be like a month. Another day will be like a week. And the rest of the days will be normal. So the scholars calculate. They calculate, and this is the scholars, the companions. They calculate his stay to be approximately 1 year and 2.5 months. So if anybody asks you how long will the Antichrist be here, the companions calculated this to be 1 year and 2.5 months. He will cause so much fitna during that time. And Allah will give him miracles, which we talked about. And during that year and 2.5 months, when it comes to an end, that's when Jesus will appear. And the Jesus will come down the minarets of the mosque in Damascus, Syria. The believers of Allah will gather to support him. They are the ones who will be with the Mahdi. And Jesus will lead them in battle against the Ad-Dajjal at that time, who will be trying to run away. When he hears that Jesus has arrived, he will try to run away. He will be at the airport in Jerusalem. He will be trying to catch an airplane out of Jerusalem. But Jesus will catch up with him at that airport. He will catch up with him at the gate of Lud. And we did the research. The gate of Lud, where that is right now, is the airport in Jerusalem, that major airport, the international airport of Jerusalem. That's where Jesus will catch him, and he will kill him. Jesus will kill him, and he will die there. And that's it. And that's when Jesus will take control of the earth. After Jesus slays the Antichrist, that's when he will begin his reign. His reign as the Caliph. For this class, we're going to go into detail about those 7 years of peace. But it's only 7 years. After that 7 years, the fitna begins again. Because guess what? There's a trial. Exactly, Layli. I'm surprised. MashaAllah, you got it. Exactly, from Iran. Exactly. Asfahan and Khorasan. That's that part of the world. That's why the prophet said, keep your eyes. All the fitna will come from that part of the world. Syria, Iraq, and Iran. Iran, Syria, Iraq, and of course, Israel. We have to keep our eye. That's where all the fitna will come from, that part of the world. The prophet laid it out. Okay. So when we meet on Wednesday, guys, I'm going to give you a brief quiz over what we discussed today. And then we're going to go into a fitna that's just as great as the Antichrist. That fitna is known as the Gog and the Magog. The Arabs need to fear, because the Gog and the Magog, they will be unleashed. They will destroy all the Arabic countries. And we're going to talk about it the next time we meet. So as you can see, each greater sign gets worse than the previous. 7 years of peace under Jesus, living and practicing true Islam in accordance to the understanding of the companions, then it's going to disappear. We'll be back to that crap, the Gog and the Magog and all of that. All right, I'm going to stop. Hey, inshallah, you guys can hear me. Inna alhamdulillah, wa salat, wa salam ala wa rasulullah. Welcome to our series on the signs of the last hour. This is our series on the signs of the last hour. And we have been speaking about the greater signs. We spoke about how one of the greater signs of the last hour will be the arrival of Jesus, alayhi salam. And we talked about how when Jesus comes back, he will not come back as a prophet. Instead, when he comes back, the first thing he will do is he will destroy the Antichrist. And then after destroying him, he will become the leader of the entire world. And this is what is meant by destroying the cross. There will be no more Christianity. There will be no more Judaism. There will be only one official religion of the entire earth. And that official religion will be Islam. He will reinstate the Sunnah of our Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it comes with a price. The price is that no longer will the caliphate be hailed from out of Mecca. Because remember, the prophet told us in an authentic hadith that the Quraysh, that leadership will remain amongst the Quraysh. Okay? Jesus was not Arab, is not Arab, and he's not Quraysh. Okay? He's Hebrew. So the power will shift. It will shift from Mecca to Jerusalem, because when Jesus defeats the Antichrist, that's when the Muslims will take back Israel. Israel will now become back in the hands of the Muslims, and Jesus will rule the world, but he will make the headquarters Masjid al-Aqsa. So that's when Masjid al-Aqsa will come back into the possession of the Muslims as well. And it will be the place of worship and everything else of Prophet Jesus, alayhi salam, and those who will be with him. And then we talked about how after Jesus establishes Islam as the universal religion, after Jesus establishes the laws of the Quran and the Sunnah that had become abandoned. Remember, Allah said that the Quran will disappear from the hearts of man. The Sunnah will become abandoned and disappear. Well, Jesus will bring all that back because he will rule by the Quran. He will rule through the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Islam will be revived, and the entire world, as it turns into submission, because that's what Islam means, is submission. We talked about how there will be 7 years of peace. The people will experience a peacefulness that hasn't been experienced in decades. The world will be so happy and so peaceful that a child will be able to play with a lion and the lion will not harm it. Okay? A child will be able to hold a snake, and the snake won't bite it. But that's temporary, because as Allah tells us with the life of this world, everything in this world is just temporary. Nothing lasts forever. And today we're going to speak about what the next great fitna will be. After those 7 years of peace, after those 7 years of happiness of the Sunnah being reinstated, the next greater sign of the last hour will occur. And that's what our focus will be today. We will speak about the Gog and the Magog. That will be the next great tragedy that will happen to mankind. And I want y'all to see that each calamity is worse than the previous one. The people thought they went through it with the Antichrist. Oh my gosh. And the Antichrist will only be here for 2.5 years. Okay? Those 2.5 years seem like hell. Well, they have seen nothing compared to what the Gog and Magog will bring, the havoc they will bring. So let me load up the PowerPoint. And again, all the information I'm presenting to you today is authentic. This was taken directly from the authentic Hadith books. And I was up all morning since after Fajr, from Fajr till 10 o'clock in the morning, putting this together for y'all. So I really hope you got, oh, wrong PowerPoint. Voluntary prayers, we did that already. Hold on. Wrong PowerPoint. Nobody told me. Layla, you got the prayers. Okay, here it is. Sorry. Wrong PowerPoint. Okay. Here it is. Inshallah, y'all can see. I was up after Fajr, gathering up all these hadiths and putting them in order for you guys and all that. That was kind of hard to do, to put everything in order, checking with the scholars to make sure that the hadiths were translated, that I was able to convey the message in English to you guys properly. All that. Okay, so tonight's session, we're going to speak about one of the greater signs of the last hour, the Gog and the Magog. The Gog and the Magog. This will be one of the most horrific calamities to befall mankind. This will occur after the 7th year of Jesus' reign as the ruler of the world. Now, a lot of people ask, what or who? Who or what are the Gog and the Magog? Well, they are 2 tribes of people who will appear at the time of Jesus after the Antichrist, 7 years after his destruction. And these people will cause so much havoc. And again, there's some Muslims out there that you may hear speak about the Gog and the Magog, and they'll try to tell you, oh, who are the Gog and the Magog? Well, they're monsters. They're not human. They're half man, half animal. None of that stuff is true. That is not true. Okay, Allah tells us that they are human beings, and they live right now. They're here amongst us today. They're right here on earth, guys. It's just that they're behind a barrier. We can't see them because Allah has them behind a barrier. I'm sure you guys were here and participated when I did the series on the stories from the Quran. I talked about the story of Dhul Qarnayn to you guys. Okay, Dhul Qarnayn was a king that lived during the time of Abraham. And he's the one that built the barrier of which these people remain behind. And they will remain behind that barrier, until Allah wills for them to come out. So when you hear people say that the Gog and the Magog, you know, they are some type of supernatural force, or, you know, they're half human, half animal, none of that stuff is true. These are fairy tales. And unfortunately, there's a lot of fairy tales in Islam, just like there's a lot of fairy tales, you know, in any, unfortunately, in all religions. But again, what is it that sets Islam apart from the other religions of the world? Is that Islam is based on two sources, and two sources alone. And those two sources are the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what does that mean? That means whenever a person speaks about Islam, whenever a person speaks about Islam, they have to be able to back up everything they say, whatever they say, and everything they say with clear evidence from the Quran, or clear evidence from the authentic hadith. And what is clear evidence? Clear evidence is a verse that says whatever they allege is said. Well, I'm going to give you the truth about the Gog and the Magog. They are not alien. They are human beings. So let's put the PowerPoint back up here. I just wanted to make that point with everyone before we begin. And let me, I'm trying to situate this PowerPoint. Y'all see how hard this is for me to put everything together. Okay, so we're going to speak about the Gog and the Magog, and let me show you why I chose this picture. This picture up here on the top, on the left, I chose this picture because some of the kids have asked me, Sister Laila, are the Gog and the Magog half human and half lion, like this picture? In fact, this is a picture that one of the kids here, the Sunnah follower kids, sent me. She said, is this the Gog and the Magog? No. This is just some type of picture off of the internet. I don't know where this picture came from. But no, they are human beings. Okay? So let's see what the Quran says about them. Well, first of all, the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, told us in an authentic hadith, Gog and the Magog are trying to dig a way out through their barrier. And they will dig until they see the sunlight. And then the person who oversees them will say, go back and continue digging tomorrow. And they will keep coming back. They keep coming back every day, digging and digging and digging, trying to break through that wall. And they will continue to do this until Allah decrees that that wall be penetrated and the hole opened to the point where they can come out. Okay? So this is what our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us. And then he told us when they do come out from behind their barrier, there's so many of them that they will drink up all the water. And when the people on earth who are living at that time see them, the people will run from them and hide, because these are scary looking people. Because remember, guys, they've been behind this wall for centuries. That means that they don't have the technology that we have today. They don't use internet. They're still living just as they lived back in the beginning of time. They deal with spears. They deal with shields and things like that. Okay. Okay, there, I'm getting text messages. Yeah, they deal with shields and things like that. They don't have internet. They don't have cars. They're still riding horses. They're still using their camels, using their donkeys. Okay, so when they come out from behind that wall, the people living on earth at that time will be shocked to see these strange, crazy looking people. And when they come out, they will drink up all the water, and they will take their arrows and light them with fire and shoot them up at the sky. And the arrows will fall back down with something on them that looks like blood. And these people are so ignorant because they're not civilized. They will think that they have killed Allah, that they have defeated the people on earth, and that they've killed Allah. And they will cause so much havoc, and they will only be destroyed through the supplication that Jesus makes. Jesus will know that he stands no chance, that none of us stand a chance in defeating these people, because these people are so barbaric, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of them. They will outnumber us. So he will make dua, and Allah will cause insects to appear that will give them a disease that will kill them off. So that's what our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained would happen. And that brings us to a question that many Muslims ask and have always asked. Well, who are these people? Since they're not aliens, since they're not Martians, since they're not half man, half beast, who are they? Well, they are two groups of people. They are Turkish people. They are the descendants of Yafet, who is the father of the Turks. And he was one of the sons of Noah. Remember, we talked about how when Allah destroyed the earth with that flood, Noah and his sons reestablished mankind. Okay, well, they are the offspring of Yafet, who is the father of the Turks. And we're not talking about the Turkish people that live in Turkey. Okay, the people that live in Turkey are not the Gog and the Magog. Let's make that point clear. The Gog and the Magog are real human beings who live behind a wall. Okay, so we're not talking about the Turkey people of Turkey. These are the original people who are the descendants of Noah. And let's talk about the history of these people. Well, Allah tells us in the Quran that during the time of Prophet Abraham, there was a king, and he was called Dhul Qarnayn. He performed tawaf around the Kaaba with Abraham. He believed in Allah. He was a Muslim. He took on the belief system of Prophet Abraham and traveled with him to Mecca and performed Hajj after Prophet Abraham had built the Kaaba with his son Ismail. Okay? Dhul Qarnayn was a good man. He was also a good king. Allah gave him great power, and he was able to rule the east and the west. The people loved him. He held sway over all kings. What does that mean? That means he had swag. He was a man of swag, and he traveled far and wide, to deal with the people's issues, to address them, to help them, and all of that. One day he traveled eastwards, and he reached a pass between two mountains, and he saw people running out of the mountains. He's like, what the heck? They were speaking a language that he could not understand. In fact, they spoke a language that nobody else had ever spoken, because these people were uncivilized. These people were isolated. They lived in the mountains. They were mountain men and mountain women. They were uncultured, uncivilized. They were the Gog and the Magog. The Gog lived in on one mountain, and the Magog lived on another. And all they did was fight and kill each other. They were uncultured people who did nothing but spread corruption wherever they went, killing, robbing, raping, maiming. So when the Dhul Qarnayn happened to pass through that mountain path and saw these people running and screaming and hollering, and some people ran to him and they asked him, they were begging him to help them. These people are corrupt. These are uncultured mountain men and mountain women. All they do is kill, crush, destroy. So the other people said, oh, please, Dhul Qarnayn, can you do something to help us? Can you build a wall that will lock them into their mountains? Just build a wall around those two mountains so they can't come out and kill us, rape us, and do what they do. So the king agreed. And together, he with the other people built a wall by mixing iron and copper and tar together to hold the Gog and the Magog behind it. Okay? And Allah gives this story in the Quran. So they built this wall, and this wall locked the Gog and the Magog within their two mountains. And the Gog and the Magog didn't like this. They tried to come through that mountain or to climb over it, but Allah made it so they couldn't. All they could do is watch themselves be sealed within, because Allah has that power to do what he wants. He made it so they couldn't climb under it. All they could do was stay between those two mountains and watch Dhul Qarnayn and these people basically lock them in. So when Dhul Qarnayn was done, the Gog and the Magog, they began to dig, thinking that they could dig from underneath it. And they have been digging for centuries. And they will continue to dig, trying to come out of that mountain until Allah decrees for it to happen. And when Allah decrees for it to happen, the whole wall that Dhul Qarnayn built will be demolished. It will collapse. And they will come out in all directions, doing what they've always done and still are doing, which is killing, raping, maiming, destroying the earth and the people there. So these are real people, guys. You know, I live in Ohio. The next state down from me is Kentucky. They've made movies about the mountains of Kentucky. The mountains of Kentucky have always been known to be home of mountain men and mountain women. These are people who are uncultured. We call them hillbillies. They live without the technology that we have. And, you know, I'm going to tell you a story about one of my coworkers. When I lived in Southern Ohio, and I was working, one of my coworkers was an African-American guy, and he had a younger brother who got accepted into the University of Kentucky. So his parents always told him, you know, if you're going to come home and visit, make sure you don't drive at night, because you don't want anything to happen and you be caught in those mountains at night. Well, he didn't listen. This 21-year-old boy didn't listen. He was driving home for Thanksgiving or something, but his car got a flat tire. And he stopped, pulled over inside the mountains of Kentucky. And when he went to change his tire, he said the last thing he saw was 5 men with long beards holding bars in their hands coming at him. And when he woke up, he was in the hospital. These men had taken the gold out of his teeth, because he had dentures, gold teeth, you know. They had robbed him of everything he had. They even pulled with pliers his teeth out for the gold he had in his teeth. This poor young boy was in intensive care, beaten up and robbed by mountain men. He was in intensive care for about a month almost, in the hospital a month. And I remember my coworker coming to work. He was so worried about his little brother. He ended up living. He got out. He's fine now. But he transferred from that university He started going to school here in Ohio. He transferred. So these type of, imagine those corrupt mountain men. Well, the Gog and the Magog are worse than the Appalachians of America. Okay? They're just like them, though, very uncultured, very uncivilized, and they're living just like they and carrying on as they have back in the time of Dul Karnain. So here in Ohio, we've heard the stories about driving through the mountains of Kentucky, okay? And a lot of people don't drive through the mountains of Kentucky at night, not to go anywhere because of them crazy mountain men that live in there. Well, imagine that's the Gog and the Magog worse than these crazy mountain men. And when they come out, just like those mountain men will come out the mountains at nighttime and beat you in the head with a bar and rob you of everything you got. Well, these Gog and the Magog will rush out, spreading nothing but corruption everywhere they go, killing people, uprooting the plants and everything else. And the only way that they will be destroyed is through Jesus. Jesus making dua, because it's many of them. Okay, hold on for 1 second, guys. I got somebody at my door. Hold on. Okay, I'm sorry. I had Instacart. I had to order some Tylenol. So anyway, these people, when they do come out, it's so many of them because this is a whole nation of people, thousands of them, hundreds of thousands of them. Jesus knows that he can't defeat these crazy people with their barbaric ways. So he will make dua. And then Allah will send those worms that will bite their necks and cause them to die. But what will they do? This is the question that a lot of Muslims ask. What type of havoc will they cause? Well, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam has told us in numerous authentic hadiths that when the Gog and the Magog break out of their wall, what will they do? You've heard me and other people say that they will kill all the Arabs. How many of you have heard me say that? In fact, I just said it the other day. I said, I'm going to teach you about the Gog and the Magog. I said that they will destroy the entire Arabic world. That's not true. That's not true. I did speak with the scholars. It's not true. They will not destroy the entire Arabic world. What they will do is destroy Arabia, Saudi Arabia, and they will kill everyone living in Saudi Arabia. So that's the correction. Okay, when you read these hadiths in the Fushat, they don't say that, it doesn't say that they're going to go to all the Arabic countries and kill all the Arabs, like I thought, and like many other Muslims think, by reading the English. No, the Arabic is Saudi Arabia. And why Saudi Arabia? The Prophet said, because Islam began there. My way began there. And these people were the first to deviate away from my way. They were the first to issue fatwa. Remember that hadith? This is how all the hadiths connect. As my teacher explained to me, all the hadiths connect. Remember, I tell y'all that too. All the hadiths connect. When the Prophet said, my people will deviate away from what I came with. You will issue fatwa, Islamic verdicts that go against my sunnah. And the people will follow you because you speak my language, because you come from my country, Saudi Arabia. And it all makes sense when you think about it, because the Arabic world follows whatever Saudi does. When Saudi Arabia say that the moon has been sighted, people don't look. They just take Saudi Arabia's word for it. Saudi Arabia was the one that issued fatwa saying the women can't wear colors. So look how many stupid Muslims believe that that's the Islam when it's culture. Saudi Arabia had a law banning women from driving. Look how many stupid Muslims wouldn't let their wives learn how to drive. Wouldn't teach their daughters how to drive because they thought it was haram. Like the prophet said, the people, my nation, will follow what they do. And you will allow them to issue fatwas that go against what I say. When you guys want to learn the religion, instead of y'all finding a teacher to teach you, what do? You go to Islam Q&A, don't you? Y'all go to that Saudi Arabian website, Islam Q&A, whatever those men have that are not even here to defend themselves, whatever past fatwas they've given that don't even apply to you and your situation, you're going to take it as if God said it. Same stuff. So the Gog and the Magog are not going to come and destroy and kill every Arab living on earth. They're going to kill every Arab left in Saudi Arabia. But remember, we talked about where will the people of Mecca, where will the people of Medina be at this time? Anybody remember? When Jesus comes, where will the people of Mecca and Medina be? Can anybody remember?
Jerusalem.
Exactly. Mecca and Medina will be uninhabited. Remember, the real believers, the true believers will all have migrated to Jerusalem. They will be supporting the Mahdi, and then they will be supporting Jesus. The believers of Mecca, the believers of Medina will have all left Mecca and Medina. They will be where in Masjid al-Aqsa. That's the name, the number one mosque now. Remember, we said that Mecca and Medina will be abandoned. No people will be living there. The only thing when Jesus comes, the only thing living in Mecca and Medina will be animals. The people will have migrated to Jerusalem. So when the Gog and the Magog break through that wall, they're headed for one place, Arabia. And whatever people are living there will be killed, will be destroyed. In fact, they'll destroy everything there in Arabia except for the Kaaba. And I'm getting ready to give y'all the Dalil. Saudi Arabia, everything there will be destroyed except for the Kaaba. Let's take a look at these hadiths. Like I say, this is why it's so important to know that Fusha. This is why it's so important to have scholars of the hadith. Listen to what Zainab, who was one of the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said. She said one night when the Prophet was with her, he woke up from his sleep and he said, La ilaha illallah. He said, there is a terrible destruction in store for Arabia. When you read this hadith in the Arabic Fusha, it doesn't say all Arabs. It says Arabia, Arabia, Arabia. There is a destruction in store for Arabia because of a turmoil which is at hand. The barrier of the Gog and the Magog has opened, and then he made a sign with his hand to indicate how wide. Then he said, woe to the Arabs living at that time there. Woe to the Arabs living in Arabia at that time. He said it 3 times. Woe to the Arabs living in Arabia at that time, because they will all be destroyed by the Gog and the Magog. And that's when Zainab said, oh, Prophet of Allah, they're going to kill all Arabic people living in Arabia? He said, yes. She said, even the good people? He said, yes, because they failed to enjoin the good. They failed to forbid the evil. He said, but don't worry, Zainab. This will only happen when evil dominates. Because again, remember, the good Arabs, the true believing Arabs of Arabia won't be in Arabia anyway. They're going to be in Jerusalem. Whoever's living in Arabia after Jesus comes are basically hypocrites. Their faith is true. Okay? Y'all understand now? So this is what this hadith is talking about. They will destroy Arabia and every person living there, because Arabia will only be left with hypocrites. The believers of Arabia will have migrated, made hijrah to Jerusalem. They will be with Jesus, supporting him, part of his regime. Does everybody understand that? So this is the true meaning of this hadith. This is the true meaning of this hadith. Okay? So not all the Arabs on earth, the Arabs of Medina. And also another hadith, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, today the wall of the Gog and the Magog has been opened so much, and it will continue to be opened more and more until they bust out, and they will destroy Arabia, kill everyone there, and destroy everything there except for the Kaaba. Remember, I told you guys, we got a lot of Muslims today who pray for Masjid al-Aqsa. MashaAllah, alhamdulillah. We will have Masjid al-Aqsa, but it will come with a price. The price of the Muslims taking back Masjid al-Aqsa will be that we will lose the mosque in Mecca, the mosque in Medina. The Prophet's mosque in Mecca, the Prophet's mosque in Medina, they will be destroyed. To be honest, it all makes sense. What's the point in having them there? Jesus is ruling now. He's ruling by the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad. But Jesus ain't Arab. He's not an Arab. Jesus is not a Quraysh. Okay? He's Hebrew. Where do the Hebrews come from? Jerusalem. It all makes sense. Allah has hikmah that you and I will never understand. So it makes sense that the Gog and the Magog would destroy everything in Arabia. First of all, ain't no believers left there. Secondly, there's no need for the mosque in Mecca, the mosque in Medina. They'll leave the Kaaba, but not the masjids. The main mosque left now is Al-Aqsa. Everybody understand that? So that's what these hadiths are telling us. Okay? And again, despite the Gog and the Magog's annihilation of the Arabs, they will leave the Kaaba standing. And believe it or not, despite the fact that they will kill all Arabs living in Arabia, that won't stop us from still making Hajj. The other people around the world will still be able to make Hajj because the Kaaba will still be there. And where's my dalil? This is the next hadith. And all these hadiths are Bukhari and Muslim. Sa'id al-Khudri said that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the people will continue to perform the Hajj and Umrah to the Kaaba even after the appearance of the Gog and the Magog. The day of judgment will not come till the Hajj is abandoned. That's one of the last signs. One of the last signs will be the destruction of the Kaaba. The Kaaba will be destroyed, but not yet. But the masjid is gone. The Prophet's mosque is gone. The mosque in Medina is gone. All that's gone. All the Arabs living in Arabia wiped out by the Gog and the Magog, but they left the Kaaba alone. So people will still make Hajj to the Kaaba. It'll be the last thing to leave. But people will be going to Masjid al-Aqsa to do their prayers. Okay? And also the prophet tells us when they break out of their mountain, the first thing they will do is drink up all the water as they're on their way to Arabia, because when they come out of that mountain, they're in that part of the world. Remember, the prophet said all the fitna, look to Iraq, Syria, Iran, that Afghanistan, that part of the world is where these people are. Only Allah knows where the Gog and the Magog are, but it's that part of the world. And when they come through that mountain, the first place they going to is Arabia. And on their way to Arabia, they will drink all the water in that area. And that's when Jesus will come. In fact, Allah, the Prophet Muhammad told us where the water is. He said Allah will send the Gog and the Magog, and they will swarm down from the slopes of their mountains. And the first group of them will pass Lake Tabariyah, which is near the Dead Sea in Palestine. And they will drink all its water. And this is a picture of that lake. This is Lake Tabariyah in Palestine. This is it. This is the lake of water that the Gog and the Magog will drink all the water in here on their way to Arabia. So there will be no more water left here. So they come. So that's why I say wherever their mountain is, it's in that part of the world. There is in that Israel, all that part of the world. Okay. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us that Jesus and his companions will be so hard pressed about how to handle them, because it's so many of the Gog and the Magog. It's so many of them. And they're so primitive. They're so barbaric, they won't know what to do. Jesus will leave from out of Jerusalem to try to, meet with these people, but he'll say, I can't deal with these barbarians. When he see that they done drank all the water up, killed all the animals, tore up all the trees, and he'll be like, what am I supposed to do? And that's when he will turn to Allah, the prophet said, and make dua. And he will say, oh Allah, help me against these crazy people. And that's when Allah will send insects that will attack them and bite them in their necks, and they will die. And then as they are dying off, Jesus and his companions will come out and see that none of them will be living, but they will see the whole land, dead bodies just lying everywhere. And that, they'll be all over in Arabia, from that part of the earth, from Jerusalem to Arabia, filled with dead carcasses. And the prophet said their stench will be so bad that Jesus will again make dua. He will say, oh Allah, we can't handle the smell of this. And Allah will send birds whose necks will be like camels that will grab the dead bodies of the Gog and the Magog, and it's thousands of them, and will throw them wherever Allah asks them to throw them, in the ocean. And then Allah will send down rain. This is all the same hadith. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. By the way, all these hadiths I am reading to you are in Sahih Bukhari. Allah will send down rain, which will spare no house in the city or in the countryside of that area, from Jerusalem to Arabia. And it will wash away the earth and get rid of the smell. And as far as how many of those people are, the animals, the wild animals of Mecca, the wild animals of Medina will be able to eat and get fat off of them. That's how many Gog and Magog there are. There's hundreds of thousands of them, guys. The animals will eat of their flesh and get fat and fat off of them. That's how many it is. When it says the milk will be so blessed that the milk of one camel will suffice a large company? The sheikh explained to me that this means that this is how many bodies of the Gog and Magog there will be. So many of them that the animals, the wild beast of Mecca, the wild beast of Medina, the wild beast out in the desert, they'll eat and get full and fat off of these things. Okay? And also to show how many they are, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that for 7 years after them, we'll still be finding the remains of the Gog and the Magog. That's how many hundreds of thousands of them there are. And here's another hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said Allah will send a worm like the worm that's found in the nose of a sheep, which will penetrate the neck of the Gog and the Magog, and they will die like locusts. In one night, Allah will take them out. So all those thousands of people will die in one night from this insect's bite. And the next morning, the Muslims, Jesus and his army, and all the people living around there, they will not hear any sound from them. Okay? And that's because Allah will have caused them all to die. Okay? And again, here's the Dalil. All of this is Bukhari. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said the Muslims will use the bows and arrows and shields of the Gog and the Magog as firewood for 7 years. That's how many of them. That's how large their number is. So the Gog and the Magog, they are people. But when they bust out of that mountain, they headed for one place. They ain't headed for the rest of the world. They got their eye on Arabia. Arabia. That ain't the place to be. Because if you there, like the prophet said, you getting ready to die. Because you ain't nothing but a hypocrite probably anyway, because the believers are in Jerusalem. Bye-bye, Prophet's Mosque. Bye-bye, Mecca, Mosque in Mecca, Medina. The Kaaba will remain. The Kaaba will remain. And people will still be making Hajj. Okay? Now, before I end this, there's one hadith here that I've heard a lot of famous brothers misconstrue the meaning of. Every time I teach this class, I give y'all the true meaning of this hadith. A lot of people, you will hear a lot of brothers and sisters when they speak about paradise, they speak about hell. They'll tell you, oh, if you're Muslim, you'll be okay. All Muslims are going to come out of hell. Don't worry. This is not true. I've proven that to y'all. There's going to be a lot of people that's going to be in the hellfire forever because even though they claim to be Muslim, they hypocrites, which are unbelievers. Okay? This hadith, many people read it and misconstrue the meaning of it because number one, they don't speak Fusha. Number two, they don't understand Islamic history. Number three, they don't understand what happens with paradise and hell on the day of judgment. Let's review this hadith. And this hadith can be found in Sahih Bukhari, so it's authentic. Abu Sa'id tells us that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, on the day of judgment, Allah will say to Prophet Adam, he will say, oh, Adam. And Adam will say, I am here, Allah. Allah will say, oh, Adam, bring out the people of the hellfire. And Adam will say, how many are belonging of the fire? And Allah will say, out of every 1,000 people, take 999 and put them in hell. And at this time is when the children will grow old and every pregnant woman will drop her kid and abort her child, because this is judgment day. And they know that Allah's punishment is severe. Now, a lot of people read this hadith and they say, well, what does you mean out of every 999? Now, when the Prophet told the companions that out of every 1,000 people, 999 are going to hell, the companions got scared. Why did they get scared? Because they didn't even have 1,000 people at that time. You know, this is when the Prophet had migrated to Medina. This was before the conquest of Mecca. The companions were few in numbers. They were outnumbered in all their battles. So when he said out of every 1,000 people, 999 is going to go to hell, one of the companions said, but we don't even have 1,000 of us. The Prophet told them, be of good news, be happy. He said, because that 1,000 will be from the Gog and the Magog, and you, my companions, each one of you will be the one. So the Gog and the Magog will make up the difference of my companions. That's what this hadith means. It doesn't apply to you and me today. You cannot sit there and give a lecture on Islam and tell people just because we Muslims, we all coming out of hell because the Gog and the Magog. No, that's the companions of the Prophet. That's not us. The companions of the Prophet, you know, they were afraid. They said, we don't even have that many. One of them will be the difference of the 1,000. So this hadith is misconstrued. It doesn't apply to all Muslims living on earth, every Muslim from eternity. That hadith is only for the companions of the Prophet. However many companions he had, they will be the one out of, and the Gog and the Magog will make up the 999 difference. Does everybody understand? So you cannot take this hadith. This is incorrect to say it applies to us. No, that's the companions only. Companions only. They'll be in paradise. That's why we have to be careful talking about the companions of the Prophet. When you slander the companions of the Prophet or speak badly about them, that's why that's a horrific sin. They'll end up in paradise. You don't know where you're going. You might be of that 999 that's going to sink in that hellfire because of what you said about them companions. Everybody understand? So this is what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us about the Gog and the Magog. All that havoc that they cause, it'll be directed towards Arabia. Okay? And all that havoc that they cause, it will all be wiped out in one night. Allah will destroy them in one night through the supplication of Jesus, the power of dua. Jesus ain't even going to try to take them out. He know I can't do nothing with these people. These people crazy. They barbarians. Look at these. Look what they done did. These people insane. They done destroyed the Prophet's mosque. These people killing everything. They killing the animals. They using sticks and spears. What the heck I'm supposed to do? Jesus gonna say, hey, Allah, need some help here. And in one night, they'll be taken out. All right, so I'm going to stop right here. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. If there's any questions or comments, inshallah, you guys can go ahead and ask them. I hope this is clear. The next time we meet for this class, we're going to speak about why Mecca and Medina are uninhabited. I'm going to go into the description that the prophet gave us of the cleansing of Mecca and Medina, how no one will be there, and how and what will happen. We're going to talk about that earthquake, the earthquake that will have occurred right before Jesus came to cleanse out those two cities. Okay. So any questions or comments, you can go ahead and type them on the screen now, or get on the mic and ask them too. Okay, there's no.
You know, I used to think before the Gog and Magog were just like two men, but now I know it's like multiple of them.
It's a people like you and me. They got wives, children, babies, animals. They just like us. They live in houses, but they just don't have that technology. They don't have cars. They don't have computers. They just living like they've been living since the time of Dul Qarnayn. Barbaric people. They worse than mountain men. Okay. What up? Yeah, go ahead.
Like a caveman.
Yeah, like cavemen. Yeah, they're just barbaric.
Yeah.
A lot of people talk about the hillbillies, about the Appalachians. These people are worse than Appalachians. It won't be long. They won't be long like the Antichrist. They won't be long. Their destruction will be short. Like I said, they only go in one place. They headed for Arabia, but they taken out everything in their way. Anything from where they come out to Arabia will be destroyed. They're gonna drink up all the water that's on the way, kill everything they see. But they will be taken out in one night. So they're not gonna be here long. Because Jesus will make that dua, and his dua will be answered quick. But the damage that they do was enough. They done destroyed the mosques. They done killed everybody in Arabia. All the Arabs that lived in Arabia are dead. So it's enough. Talk about homicide and genocide. Consequences. And that's what the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted the companions and wanted us to realize there's consequences for our choices. The choices we make in life, guys, they bring about consequences. Be careful what you pray for too, because it brings about consequences. And that's why he was so detailed about the signs of the last hour. He wanted the companions to know that there are consequences. The choices, the decisions you make today can come and bite you in the behind later. And right before the last hour, everybody's going to reap what they sow. And Allah has to deal with the Arabs of Arabia. You got to answer. You got to pay. All of this confusion, all of this dissension came from them. Like the prophet said, you will be the ones. You will speak my language. You will come from my home. You will be the ones issuing fatwas, Islamic verdicts that go against me. You will be the ones who are ruwaybida. And they are. Consequences. The whole world walks to the beat of Saudi Arabia. Consequences. But as the prophet said, even though they'll all be killed and destroyed, when we're raised up on the day of judgment, we'll all be judged individually. Like he told Zainab. She said, but why the innocent people? He said, because they failed to enjoin the good and forbid the evil too. But when you are raised up on the day of judgment, Allah will judge us all individually. Yeah, and that's why I was saying. And this is the point of learning it, because you see that this stuff is happening today. Y'all see the signs. They're already happening today. The division, how we're oppressing each other, we're killing each other, we are hating each other, we don't support each other, we're all into the money, the oil, you know, the life of this world. We're imitating the Christians. We're now doing debates, we're doing interfaith with the Christians. We're just like them. We're reading the Bible now. We're going through the Bible, even though Allah said it doesn't exist, and we're trying to pick it apart. We're arguing and debating like the Christians. We're doing everything that they do, like the prophet said we would do. Truthfulness is disappearing, honesty. The people of truthhood, the real Muslims, those of us who really follow the Sunnah. Guys, I follow the Sunnah. I live the Sunnah. This is the Sunnah. But y'all look at me as a Jezebel. But that woman over there who's wearing a burqa, who don't know how to even spell Sunnah, you think that she's the righteous woman. See how the truth and falsehood have flipped. The oppressive look, you think it's the look of piety. Y'all see that? How many of you sisters have thought about that? Islam is against oppression. If a woman looks oppressed and shabby, you think she's righteous. A woman like me looks content in my skin and confident. I'm a Jezebel. That's an example how the truth will appear to be falsehood and the falsehood will appear to be truthfulness. We're living all this stuff. The way I dress, the way I look, this is how Aisha dressed. This is how Aisha looked. You would never see Aisha in no burqa. Burqas didn't exist. Okay? And they never wore black. Like Atiyah said, if you ever saw any of us wearing dark colors, it was because we were mourning. Y'all heard that hadith that Sheikh Atlee went over today? I was wanting him to say the whole thing. Atiyah went on in that hadith to say we never wore dark colors unless we were mourning someone. We never wore black. We never wore anything dark unless we were mourning. But when y'all see those women dressed like that, y'all think that's true Sunnah. And y'all look at me and say, oh, she got on makeup. She got on this. This is how Aisha looked too. So we live in it. And what Arab wears gloves in the desert? Or do y'all think they mentally ill? Can you imagine Aisha walking around with a pair of gloves on in a daggone 150-degree desert? Do y'all think people mentally ill? Seriously, these are the days we're living in. Truth looks like falsehood. Falsehood appears to be truthfulness. When you use your intelligence, all you got to do is think. All you got to do is think. Would a woman in the desert wear a pair of gloves? Yeah. So a lot of these signs are already here. We're living in these days. So they got to pay the price. And the price that Arabia will pay is the Gog and the Magog. They want to be like the people of the book. What did the Prophet Muhammad say? You claim to dislike them. You claim to hate the people of the book, but you're trying to be like them. The same way Allah had to teach them a lesson. What's going on over there in Jerusalem has been going on for centuries. This was going on long before Moses. Just like Allah had to teach them a lesson, that's why you Arabs of Arabia are going to learn yours too. You want to be like them, you're going to pay to the piper with the Gog and the Magog. Consequences. Yeah. All right. Any other questions or comments on that? And by the way, guys, what I want to do is I want to do this today. I want to do the next class now. This is the last class on Oh Allah Forgive Me from the book entitled Oh Allah Forgive Me. And then tomorrow, I'm going to start the new book of Sheikh Atlee's entitled Beware. And I know you guys bought the book. For those of you who haven't, let me put the little graphic thing up. For those of you who haven't, go to, let me put it up here. All books that we use for our classes can be purchased by going to www.atleeonline.com. What I want you guys to do who don't have the book, go to www.atleeonline.com and order the book, Beware. Let me put that in here too. Hold on. Order the book, Beware. Okay, let's see. So that's the new book that we're going to be starting in this class, the Hadith class. This is a great book called Beware. These are Hadiths where the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, warned us to beware of certain things that can destroy our iman. He warned us to beware of certain things that can stand between us and Allah. So I want you guys to order that book. And for right now, I'm going to do the last few pages of the book, Oh Allah Forgive Me. And let me put the PowerPoint up on the screen so we can get right into that. Okay, hold on for a second. Let me get my... All right. Let me open it up. Okay, here it is. Okay, inshallah, everybody should be able to see. Okay, we're going to talk about how the Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, taught us that once a person repents from his sins. Now, we talked about how when you repent from your sins, you should be determined to not fall back into that sin. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us one of the best ways to keep yourself from repeating a sin over again is to make sure that you keep good company. Be careful of the people whom you surround yourself with. And this is what we're going to talk about today, which is the last part of the book, Oh Allah Forgive Me, avoiding bad company. Now, Allah tells us in the Quran, in the interpretation of the meaning, he says, remember the day when those who commit sin will bite their hands and say, oh, if only I had taken away with the Prophet Muhammad. Woe unto me, if only I had never befriended so-and-so. If only I had never taken so-and-so as a personal friend. So Allah is telling us in this verse of the Quran, guys, that we should be very careful who we surround ourselves with. The Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, a good and a bad friend is like a person who carries musk and a person who pumps out filth. The person who carries musk will either give you a share of that perfume, or you will even want to buy it from him. But for the person who pumps out filth, he will either burn your clothing or you will walk away with a filthy smell from him. So this is why it's important for us as Muslims to be careful who we choose to get close with. Also, guys, there's another hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the companions, be careful who you choose to hang out with, because you will take on the religion of your friends. You will take on the character and the behavior of who you associate with. Association brings about assimilation. So he encouraged the companions to be careful who they chose to be their friends. And you want to try to surround yourself with people who remind you of what your purpose in life is. You want to surround yourself with people that will remind you of what the ultimate goal is. That's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, people do not sit in a gathering that doesn't remember Allah or send blessings upon their prophet. Because if they do sit in a gathering that doesn't do that, there'll be nothing but sorrow for them. If Allah wants to, he will punish them. Or if he wants to, he will forgive them. So the prophet told the companions, don't sit with people, or don't sit in gatherings where Allah is not mentioned, where Allah is not remembered, because all it's going to lead to is bad. So this is one of the best ways to prevent yourself from falling into sin. Make sure that you keep company with righteous, good other Muslims. Also, Allah tells us in the Quran, in the interpretation of the meaning, for he who fears the day when he will have to stand before his Lord, this is the person that will have two paradises. We have to understand, guys, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us in an authentic hadith that you will never be a believer unless you have love for Allah and unless you have fear of his punishment and unless you have hope of his forgiveness. Any person who lacks all three, and I mean all three of those characteristics, the prophet said is not a believer. That's why a person who takes his own life is a kafir, because he lost hope. That's why a person that commits sin over and over and over again and don't care is a kafir, because he has no fear. That's why the prophet said some of you will die addicted to alcohol, and you will be raised up as a kafir because your love for that alcohol was greater than your love for Allah. So we have to have love, hope, and fear, and they have to be in equal, balanced proportions in our hearts in order for us to be true believers. Okay? So fearing Allah is something that the believer does. You should fear Allah's punishment. You should fear making Allah angry with you. You should fear the day that you have to stand before him and be judged. Listen to what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Indeed, Shaitan said, my Lord, by your honor and might, I will never stop misleading your servants as long as their souls remain in their bodies. And Allah said, by my honor and my might and majesty, I will never stop forgiving them as long as they seek my forgiveness. So again, guys, we have to seek forgiveness for our sins, but we have to also have fear of the day that we have to stand before Allah. That fear is what keeps us from going back to that sin again. Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Allah extends his hands in the night to forgive those who sin during the day. And he extends his hand during the day to forgive those who sin at night. And he will continue to do this until the sun rises from the west. So Allah will forgive us. only if you are sincere. As long as you are sincere in your repentance, he will forgive. And a person that is sincere is a person that fears Allah's anger, fears Allah's wrath and punishment. Okay? Also, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us about a man who came before us. He said, when the time of his death approached, he gathered his children around him and he asked them, what type of father was I? And they said, you were the best father. He said, but your father has not stored any good deeds with Allah for the hereafter. So if I should face Allah, Allah may punish me. So listen, my children, when I die, I want you to take my body and burn it until I become coal. And then I want you to grind that coal into a powder. And when the wind is blowing, I want you to throw that power in the wind. Promise me, my children, promise me. And the children promised him that. And then when he died, Allah gathered his ashes together and Allah said, be, and the man became as one. And Allah said to him, why did you do this when you know I have forbidden cremation? And the man said, I did it, O Allah, because I feared facing you. I feared facing you with all my sins. And Allah said, don't you know that my mercy supersedes my wrath? And so Allah forgave him of his sins. So this beautiful hadith, which you can also find the story in the Quran, shows even though this man committed the worst sin possible, which is to cremate himself, and even though he never did no other good deeds, the fact that he feared Allah, the fact that he feared the standing before Allah, Allah forgave him. How many of us fear the standing before Allah? I know a lot of Muslims that commit sins over and over and over again. They do the same sins over and over and over again. And you ask them, why are you doing this? Because I can, because I want to. And you ask them, don't you fear that Allah may punish you? Nope. Why should he punish me? These are people that die in that state of no coming back because they lack the fear that this man had. Okay? Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us that in a beautiful hadith qudsi, he said, undoubtedly, Allah has written down the good and the bad deeds that we would do. And he said, whoever does a good deed, who wants to do a good deed, who intends to do a good deed, but for some reason does not do it, to show how merciful Allah is, he will write it down for you anyway. But if you intend to do it and you do it, Allah will write it down as anywhere from 10 to 700 times or more. That shows the mercy of Allah. He will give us 10 points for not doing something, but because he knows that we really wanted to do it, he'll write it down as 10 points. And then if we do it, it could be anywhere to up to 700 times or more. But if a person intends to do a bad deed and doesn't do it, guess what? Allah writes it down as a good deed because you didn't do it. And if a person intends to do a bad deed and instead does a good deed, then Allah will write that down for you too. But if the person ends up doing the bad deed, guess what? Allah will only write it down once. So your good deeds can be multiplied up to 700 times or more. Your bad deeds will only be written down as 1 point against you. You would think that with the odds being like that most of us will end up in paradise. But unfortunately, guys, the reality is, even with the odds being that high, most of us will still end up in hell. That's sad. Y'all heard the hadith. Out of every 1,000 people, 999 will be in hell, even though Allah made the odds this great in our favor. Also, another hadith of the same, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever does a good deed will have 10 times that amount of blessing, or I'll give him more. But if he does a bad deed, he will have the equivalent of that bad deed, or I may forgive him. And if anyone comes the length of a span towards me, I will come the length of a cubit towards him. And if anyone comes the length of a cubit towards me, I will come a fathom towards him. And if anyone comes to me walking, I will come to him running. And if anyone meets me with sins that equal a mountain, but has not associated partners with me, I will meet him with that much more forgiveness. Subhanallah. These wonderful hadiths are all hadiths that give us hope. We should never, ever, ever allow life and its challenges to cause us to despair of the mercy of Allah. Our Lord is a vengeful Lord, yes. But Allah says his mercy outweighs his vengefulness. Allah is more merciful than anything else. All he wants us to do is to woman up, man up, and admit that we were wrong, and then turn to him and say, oh Allah, I'm sorry, forgive me, and be determined to not do it again. That's all he wants. And he'll let everything else that you did go. He'll say, I forgive you, like he did that man. I'll forgive you. All I wanted was for you to own up to it, to recognize you were wrong, recognize you shouldn't do it, recognize that you have to answer to me. That's all I ask. So why don't we repent? These beautiful hadiths should be the core to keep you from not being stupid enough to not repent. Also, we have a hadith whereas one of the companions says, while I was walking with Ibn Umar holding his hand, a man came in front of us and asked, tell me something that you heard from the Prophet about an-najwa. And Ibn Umar said, I heard the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, Allah will bring a believer near him, and Allah will shelter him with his screen. And Allah will ask him, did you commit such and such of a sin? And the man will say, yes, Allah, I did. And then Allah will keep on asking him about the different sins he committed until the man admits and confesses to all his sins. And that man will think that he's doomed. He will think that he's about to be thrown in hell. And then Allah will say, I screened your sins in the world, and now I forgive you of them today. And then that man will be given his book of deeds. But in regards to the hypocrites, their evil actions will be exposed publicly. And the witnesses watching will say, these are the people who lied against their Lord. Behold, the curse of Allah is upon them. And we talked about this in our class on the hereafter. For those of us who commit our sins in secret, this is why I tell you guys, watch your mouth. Be careful of Facebook. A lot of you like to post your business on Facebook. A lot of you like to go around confessing your sins, which in reality is bragging about them. Allah is more quick to forgive a person who commits a sin in secret than he is a person who commits it in public. If Allah hid your sin, why are you going to go out in the street and broadcast it? Allah is quicker to forgive the man who smokes cigarettes, hides and smoke in his house, than he will the man that smokes out in the marketplace. Do y'all get it? So on the day of judgment, for those of us who committed sins and we kept them to ourselves, we didn't go and broadcast them to the world. We didn't go and show that we sinned to the world. Allah will say, since you committed this sin and you kept it between you and me, I'll forgive you of it. Y'all get this hadith? You sisters who are walking out the house without a hijab on, that's an open sin. You are openly letting the world know that you have no fear of Allah. Because if you feared Allah, you would never think to come out of the house naked. You sisters who wear those tight pants and little tops, little jackets, you're not dressed like me in abaya and kimar. You're letting the world know that you believe in Allah somewhat, but hey, I'm still going to do my thing. We have to be careful of the sins that we commit publicly. Allah is not going to screen them on the day of judgment. You're going to have to stand there in front of all the creation and admit that you did those things. And the people will be witnesses against you. And the people will ridicule you. And you will be dragged by your face and thrown into the hellfire. This is some powerful stuff, guys. Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when Allah created the creation, he wrote in his book and he wrote about himself, and it is placed with him on the throne that his mercy overcomes his anger. Again, we can make Allah angry, but Allah's anger is not like ours. Our anger can turn into holding a grudge. Our anger can become hurtful. Allah's anger is not like us. He can be angry. And then you repent and it goes away like it never existed. Like it never existed. He's angry that you ain't wearing that hijab. But if you put it on tomorrow, that anger will turn into, wow, mashallah, and he'll make something good happen. He'll give you that job you want. He'll get $100 in the mail. Something good will happen to you. I'm going to tell you, I live this every day. Whenever you repent, how many of you can say this? I can too. A lot of us can in my Zoom room. Every time we do something bad and own up to it and repent from it, Allah rewards you. Something good happens. You got money in the mail. Something good happened. You got that job, that promotion. Something good happened. Allah that's how merciful he is. To turn to him, to acknowledge him as being him. He will always bring something good to you. So his anger is nothing like man's. His anger is nothing like ours. His mercy overcomes everything. So this is a wonderful book that I really enjoyed teaching. And for those of you who do not have this book, I strongly encourage you to go to Shadley's website and buy it. Because after reading this book, there's no excuse for not turning to Allah and seeking forgiveness for our sins. Allah doesn't hold grudges. Allah is not going to throw it up in your face if you repent. He'll throw it up in your face on the day of judgment. He'll throw it up in your face when you in that grave. But if you turn to him and repent now out of sincerity, he'll wipe it away as if it never happened. And then he'll bring a rainbow into your life real quick to show you, well done. Subhanallah. All right, I'm going to stop right here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Are there any questions or comments? And again, for those of you who do not have the book called Beware, go